Our world seems to have long been explored, mapped, and explained. Science makes new discoveries every day. Technology erases the last white spots on the Earth's map, and history, it would seem, is painted over centuries and decades. But what if this is just an illusion of complete understanding? What if beneath the familiar fabric of reality, there are countless mysteries that continue to challenge our very notion of the past, present, and future? This book is an invitation to such a journey. We will dive into the world of 100 unsolved mysteries, phenomena, artifacts, and places that refuse to fit into the conventional framework. These are stories about finds whose existence cannot be explained by known technologies or chronologies, about places that hold the secrets of forgotten civilizations, and about events that cast doubt on the most fundamental laws of nature. In the first half of our research, we will focus on 50 mysterious artifacts, places, and buildings. You will learn about cyclopean megaliths built before the wheel and steel, about underwater cities that sank long before the advent of writing, about ancient maps depicting continents that were thought to have been discovered only thousands of years later. We'll look at objects that have unexplained properties and places where the laws of physics seem to work differently. This material evidence, silent but eloquent, calls into question many of the tenets of modern archaeology, history, and even geology. They make you think about the existence of highly developed antediluvian civilizations, about forgotten technologies, about contacts with extraterrestrial intelligence, or about natural phenomena that still remain a mystery to us. Get ready to rethink your understanding of the possibilities of ancient man, the limits of known history, and the limitless potential of the mysteries that surround us every day. Some of these mysteries may remain unsolved forever, but their very existence serves as a powerful reminder that the world is much more complex and amazing than we think, and that the greatest discoveries may still be waiting in the wings. The Sphere of Betz, a perfect apple from antiquity and unfathomable precision. The Stanford University collection houses one of the most mysterious and controversial artifacts, known as Betz Sphere. This unusual object, discovered in the 1970s, is a perfectly smooth, shiny metal ball, almost perfectly spherical in shape, with 3 strange triangular symbols carved into its surface. Its diameter is about 20 centimeters, and its weight is about 10 kilograms. What makes this artifact so mysterious is its supposed age and the metal it is supposedly made of: stainless steel, a material that, according to official history, was only invented in the early 20th century. The main mystery of the Betz Sphere lies in its material and level of performance. The stainless steel that the sphere is said to be made of requires sophisticated smelting and processing techniques not available to ancient civilizations. If this is really stainless steel, then how could such an object have been created in ancient times? It is assumed that the sphere was found among the rubble of an old house, and its origin is still unclear. Some researchers, based on eyewitness accounts and conducted analyses, claim that the sphere has unusual properties. It can vibrate, emit heat, make strange noises, and even move independently if left alone. It is reported that when falling to the floor, the sphere does not bounce but rolls, showing an unusual mass distribution or internal structure. These anomalous properties only reinforce the feeling that the object is not an ordinary metal forgery or a random find. Also mysterious are the symbols carved on the surface of the sphere. These 3 equilateral triangles are arranged in a certain order and look like a kind of pictograms or labels, the meaning of which is completely unknown. Are they part of the mechanism, or is it a message, a ciphertext, or an indication of the object's origin? The lack of corrosion on the surface of the sphere, despite its unknown origin and possible prolonged contact with the environment, is also striking. If it is stainless steel, then its alloy could be more perfect than modern analogs, or the sphere was protected by some unknown coating. Theories about the origin of the Betz Sphere range from a prank artifact to evidence of lost technology. Some proponents of alternative hypotheses suggest that this may be an object created by a highly developed antediluvian civilization, which had knowledge in metallurgy, significantly ahead of what we know. It may be part of an unknown mechanism or a device that uses energy that we don't yet understand. Others link the Betz Sphere with extraterrestrial civilizations, assuming that it could be a fragment of an alien ship, a tool, or even a message from aliens that happen to be on Earth. The Betz Sphere, with its ideality and anomalous properties, continues to be an object of study and debate, being a silent witness to the possible existence of technologies and knowledge that go beyond our current understanding of history. Underwater ruins of Rokuma, a mystery of the Pacific depths. In the 1970s, off the coast of Rokuma Island, Rokuma in the Pacific Ocean, belonging to the Federated States of Micronesia, Japanese fishermen and researchers began to discover mysterious stone structures underwater. These finds, located at considerable depths, include massive worked stones, column-like structures, rectangular blocks, and possibly even the remains of walls and terraces that look like parts of a sunken city or monumental complex. Unlike the more famous Inaguni monument on Aguni, the Rokuma structures are less well understood and remain one of the most unexplored underwater mysteries of the Pacific Ocean. The main secret of the underwater ruins of Rokuma lies in their artificial origin and incredible depth. If these structures are truly man-made, then they are located at depths that require significant diving and the use of specialized research equipment. The presence of regular geometric shapes, right angles, uniformity of material, and presumably traces of tool processing distinguishes them from natural underwater rock formations. The difficulty of exploring at such depths means that full-fledged archaeological surveys have not yet been conducted, and most of the information is based on random finds and evidence from divers. The question of the age of these ruins is also a key one. If these structures were built on land and then flooded, it means that the Rokuma region was once above sea level. Geological evidence indicates that this sea level would have required the ocean to recede by tens or even hundreds of meters, which corresponds to the epoch of the last ice age, approximately 10,000 Nosers, 15,000 years ago. Thus, if the ruins of Rokuma are remnants of the city, they were built by a civilization that existed long before. According to official chronology, man began to erect monumental structures. This potentially points to the existence of an antediluvian, highly developed Pacific civilization that may have been part of the legendary continent of Mu or Lemuria. The lack of written sources or clear archaeological evidence of such a civilization on land only adds to the mystery. Perhaps this culture was completely wiped off the face of the earth by a catastrophic event, such as a mega tsunami, a powerful earthquake, or a sharp rise in sea level at the end of the Ice Age. If the underwater ruins of Rokuma, if they are truly man-made, they may become one of the most compelling pieces of evidence for the existence of lost civilizations in the Pacific, challenging our understanding of early human history. They offer a glimpse into a possible past where powerful empires may have flourished and disappeared beneath the waters, leaving only silent underwater ruins waiting to be discovered and recognized. Further research, despite its complexity, can completely change our understanding of the history of the Earth and humanity. The Baghdad Battery, an ancient source of electricity or a simple vessel? Among the artifacts that challenge our understanding of ancient technology, the Baghdad Battery holds a special place. Discovered in the 1930s in the village of Kuyutrabua, near Baghdad, this unusual find dates back to the period of the Parthian or Sasanian kingdom, that is, approximately 250 BC 650 AD. The artifact is a clay vessel with a height of about 14 centimeters, inside which is a copper cylinder, and in it, an iron rod. All this was sealed with an asphalt plug. This design is strikingly similar to the principle of operation of a primitive galvanic battery, which gave rise to bold hypotheses that ancient people may have had knowledge of electricity. The main mystery of the Baghdad Battery is its potential functionality as a source of electricity. Although there is no direct evidence that it was used specifically to generate electricity, for example, no wires or consumer devices were found, experiments with replicas have shown that when a vessel is filled with an electrolyte, such as vinegar or lemon juice, it is actually capable of producing a small voltage, about 0.8-1.5 volts. This wouldn't be enough to power a light bulb, but it might be enough for processes like electroplating, applying a thin layer of one metal to another, or electroacupuncture for medical purposes. If these batteries were were used for electroplating, this would explain why in ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia, Jewelry is found with the finest gold or silver coating, which is difficult to explain by purely mechanical methods. Official archaeology tends to view the Baghdad battery as a simple vessel for storing scrolls or as part of some other non-electrical device. However, this interpretation does not explain the specific internal construction, which seems unnecessarily complex for simple storage. Why were the copper cylinder and iron rod placed in this way, if not to create a chemical reaction? If the Baghdad battery really was an electrical device, it would completely change our understanding of the level of technological development of ancient civilizations. This would mean that knowledge about electricity, which is generally believed to have been discovered only in the 18th centuries AD, could actually have existed thousands of years ago. This raises the question of how this knowledge was acquired and why it was lost. Perhaps they were fragments of larger, forgotten technologies inherited from older, antediluvian civilizations, or even the result of the influence of extraterrestrial intelligence. Such a discovery could explain other technological anomalies found in ancient cultures. The Baghdad battery continues to be a silent but eloquent witness to the possible existence of lost knowledge, challenging the official history of science. Map of Piri Reis, ancient lore, and lost continents. Among the many mysteries of ancient maps, the Piri Reis map stands out for its incredible accuracy and anomalous content. This Ottoman map of the world, created in 1513 by the Turkish admiral and cartographer Piri Reis, is one of the most amazing historical finds. It depicts the coasts of Europe, North Africa, South America, and, most strikingly, part of the coastline of Antarctica, and in conditions when this continent should have been completely covered with ice and was not officially discovered until 1820. The main mystery of the Piri Reis map is its anomalous accuracy and the image of Antarctica without ice. The map shows the coastline of Queen Maud Land in Antarctica, which, according to some experts, surprisingly accurately matches the modern map of this region, obtained using seismic exploration under the ice. At the same time, the map shows rivers and mountain ranges that could only be seen during the period when Antarctica was free of ice cover. The last time such a state of the continent was observed, according to geological data, at least 10,000 12,000 thousands of years ago, that is, thousands of years before the appearance of any known civilizations capable of mapping. Piri Reis himself claims in his notes that his map was compiled from many more ancient sources, some of which date back to the IV century BC. The question arises, how could Piri Reis or its ancient sources have had such accurate knowledge of geography, especially the icy continent? Creating such a map would require advanced geodetic and cartographic skills, as well as possibly the ability to observe the Earth from a height, for example from balloons or other aircraft, the existence of which in ancient times was denied by official science. Perhaps it was knowledge gained from a highly developed antediluvian civilization that existed before the last ice age and possessed advanced technology and global knowledge about the Earth. This knowledge may have been passed down from generation to generation through different cultures until it came to Piri Reis. Some researchers suggest that the map may be proof of the existence of lost ancient maps of the world created by civilizations whose achievements were wiped off the face of the Earth. These maps could be much more accurate and detailed than what we imagine. Other theories link the accuracy of the map to the possible intervention of extraterrestrial intelligence, which could transmit this knowledge to ancient people. The Piri Reis map, with its phenomenal accuracy and depiction of vanished landscapes, continues to be one of the greatest anomalies in the history of cartography. It provides powerful evidence that ancient civilizations may have had much deeper knowledge of our planet than we tend to think, and that many of the secrets of the antediluvian eras are still waiting to be fully revealed. The mechanism of Antikythera celestial calculations of antiquity and the complexity of lost knowledge. Among the wreckage of an ancient Roman shipwreck discovered in 1901 off the coast of the Greek island of Antikythera, the most amazing and complex artifact of the ancient world was found, an Antikythera mechanism. This complex bronze instrument, dating from about 150–100 BC, is a striking example of ancient engineering. It is a mechanical analog computer designed to calculate the motion of celestial bodies. Its complexity and accuracy far outstrip anything that was thought to be available in that historical period. The main mystery of the Antikythera mechanism is its incredible complexity and level of technological development. The device consists of more than 30 bronze gears with thin teeth, differential gears and dials. It was able to track the phases of the moon, the movement of the sun, predict solar and lunar eclipses, and possibly the movement of some planets. Its accuracy of calculations was comparable to the astronomical clock of the 15th century. Official science for a long time believed that such complex mechanisms appeared only 1,500 years after the creation of the Antikythera mechanism. The discovery of this artifact completely changed the ideas about the technological capabilities of the ancient Greeks and the level of their astronomical and mathematical knowledge. The question arises, how was such a complex mechanism created, and what is its background? This level of skill couldn't have come out of nowhere. The Antikythera mechanism is probably the culmination of a long tradition of precision instruments that we know nothing about. It may have been the only surviving instance of a much more widespread technology that was later lost. Some researchers suggest that prototypes or earlier versions of such devices could have been created in the time of Archimedes or other great ancient Greek thinkers. However, the scale and complexity of this mechanism is so great that it makes you think about deeper sources of knowledge. Alternative theories are beyond the scope of official history. Some proponents of these ideas suggest that the knowledge needed to create such a device could have been inherited from an older antediluvian civilization that had advanced technologies in mechanics and astronomy. Perhaps these were fragments of lost knowledge that were passed down through the millennia. Others even link this mechanism to extraterrestrial interference, suggesting that the technology could have been transferred to humanity from the outside. The Antikythera mechanism, with its phenomenal complexity and precision, continues to be one of the greatest technological mysteries of antiquity. It is a silent witness to the existence of lost knowledge, challenging our understanding of the capabilities of ancient people and hinting at a much more complex history of science and technology than we are used to thinking. Tiwanaku's Gate of the Sun, Astronomical Codes, and Forgotten Gods. In the high plains of Bolivia, near the shores of Lake Titicaca, are the ruins of the ancient city of Tiwanaku. Dating back to between 500 and 1000 AD, this archaeological site is one of the most mysterious places in South America. Among its monumental structures, a special place is occupied by the Gate of the Sun, a huge monolith of andesite weighing about 10 tons, carved from a single block of stone. Its facade is decorated with intricate reliefs, in the center of which is a figure known as the God with Staves, or Sun God, surrounded by flying figures and zoomorphic symbols. The main mystery of the Gate of the Sun lies in its astronomical and calendar significance, as well as in the inexplicable accuracy of the carvings. The researchers found that the reliefs on the gate represent a complex calendar that may reflect astronomical cycles and events unknown to modern systems. Some scientists suggest that the Sun Gate calendar may be associated with older astronomical cycles than those used today, perhaps reflecting altered planetary orbits or other celestial phenomena. In addition, the images of animals on the gates, such as condors and jaguars, may represent constellations that were important to the ancient inhabitants. The carving itself is made with such incredible precision and detail that it seems impossible for the primitive tools that the inhabitants of Tiwanaku are believed to have possessed at Tiwanaku. How could they carve such intricate patterns on hard andesite without using metal cutters? The lack of obvious traces of percussion instruments only adds to the mystery. The age of Tiwanaku and the Gate of the Sun is also a hotly debated issue. The official date, 500–1000 AD, is disputed by some researchers, who, based on the astronomical data encoded in the Sun's gate, suggest a much older age, perhaps up to 12,000 years. If this is true, then Tiwanaku is the same age as Göbekli Tepe and other antediluvian megaliths, which completely changes the idea of the development of civilizations in the Andes. Moreover, the presence of images of toxodons on the Sungate toxodon of extinct animals that disappeared thousands of years ago may also indicate a much older origin of the complex, or that the builders had access to knowledge about the fauna of earlier eras. Who were these mysterious builders, and where did they get their knowledge? Officially, it is believed that the Gate of the Sun was created by the Tiwanaku civilization, but its methods and motives are still not fully understood. Some proponents of alternative theories suggest that Tiwanaku and the Gate of the Sun may have been built by a highly advanced antediluvian civilization that possessed deep astronomical, mathematical, and engineering knowledge. Perhaps this civilization was destroyed by a global cataclysm in Tiwanaku. It's just a fragment of her legacy. The Gate of the Sun, with its silent, encrypted symbols, continues to stand as one of the greatest evidences of lost knowledge and the possible existence of antediluvian worlds, challenging the official history of mankind. Iki Stone's controversial artifacts and impossible images. In the mid-20th century in the Ica region of Peru, for decades, farmers and collectors found thousands of engraved stones that became known as Kamni Ica stones. These stones, made of andesite, are covered with carved images that depict scenes that completely do not fit into the traditional chronology of human development. These include people coexisting with dinosaurs, scenes of surgical operations, the use of telescopes, and even maps of unknown continents. The main mystery of the Ica stones lies in their striking content, which contradicts official science. How could the ancient Peruvians have known about dinosaurs that are thought to have died out millions of years ago, unless they lived side by side with them? Images such as Triceratopsians, Brontosaurs, and even pterosaurs are rendered with anatomical precision that is difficult to explain with mere fantasy. The same goes for scenes depicting brain surgeries, blood transfusions, and other medical procedures that have only appeared relatively recently in Western medicine. These drawings suggest the existence of advanced medical knowledge in ancient times. Kamni Ica stones cause fierce disputes between supporters and skeptics. Official archaeology generally considers them to be modern forgery, created by local farmers to sell to tourists. Indeed, some producers of the stones were discovered and confessed to creating them. However, the problem is that the stones have been found for decades, and their number is estimated in the thousands. Some of the stones were found in ancient graves, which makes it difficult to believe that they were recently forged. It also raises questions about how ordinary farmers could have had the knowledge of such diverse dinosaur species and complex medical procedures to depict them in such detail on the rocks. In addition, some stones show patina, a thin layer of oxide that forms on the surface of the stone over time and usually indicates a significant age. If the stones are Ixiki, if they are authentic, then they are direct evidence of the existence of a highly developed antediluvian civilization that possessed not only knowledge about extinct creatures, but also advanced scientific and medical technologies. It could have been a society that survived some cataclysm and tried to document its knowledge for posterity. Perhaps it was knowledge passed down from more ancient sources or even from extraterrestrial civilizations. The Ica stones, with their shocking information, continue to be one of the most controversial and intriguing archaeological mysteries. They make us think about how little we know about the true history of the Earth and humanity. Underwater ruins of Cuba, Atlantis in the Caribbean, and unidentified structures. In 2000, while exploring off the west coast of Cuba, Advanced Digital Communications, a Canadian company that was mapping the sea floor, discovered something absolutely incredible. At depths ranging from 600 to 750 meters, extensive underwater structures were found that looked like symmetrically arranged stone blocks, roads, and even pyramid-like formations. These discoveries instantly sparked speculation about the possible existence of a sunken city or even a lost Atlantis in the Caribbean. The main mystery of the underwater ruins of Cuba lies in their incredible depth and obvious signs of artificial origin. The finds include giant, perfectly crafted granite blocks arranged in regular geometric shapes. Some of them look like parts of massive walls or foundations, while others look like wide, straight roads or streets. These structures are too symmetrical and ordered to be natural geological formations, which distinguishes them from ordinary underwater rocks. The depth of these ruins, more than 600 meters, means that if they were built on land, then this happened in an era when the sea level was much lower. Geologists estimate that this corresponds to a period of more than 10,000 dollars, 12,000 years ago, when the last ice age ended and sea level rise began. This makes them potentially the same age or even more ancient than other mysterious megaliths around the world. The question arises, How could there have been such an advanced civilization in the Caribbean thousands of years before the appearance of the ancient cultures we know? And what technologies were used to build such massive structures? The granite blocks that supposedly make up these ruins are very hard and difficult to work even with modern tools. Transporting them and laying them at such depths, or on the ground that then went under, is a colossal engineering challenge that goes beyond the capabilities attributed to ancient people. The lack of extensive coverage and further full-scale archaeological investigations of these ruins also raises questions. Despite initial claims and some video recordings, no systematic underwater excavations have been conducted to confirm or deny the artificial origin. This gives rise to speculation about a possible concealment of information or about the reluctance of official science to deal with such anomalous finds, which can undermine established ideas about ancient history. Underwater ruins of Cuba, if they really are the remains of a sunken civilization, can become one of the most compelling evidence of the existence of antediluvian societies that were wiped off the face of the earth by a global cataclysm. They continue to keep their deep secrets, awaiting further research that could forever change our understanding of human history and the legends of Atlantis. Orc's Stone Walls, a lost fortress and the secret of a vanished culture. In the Orkney Islands, located to the north of Scotland, the ruins of the stone walls of Orc, Maeshowe, are located among the picturesque but harsh landscapes Maeshowe. It is a unique Neolithic chamber mound dating from around 2800 BC and is part of a UNESCO World Heritage Site. At first glance, this is just an earthen hill, but inside it hides a megalithic structure of amazing complexity and accuracy. A long, narrow passage leading to a central chamber with 3 side niches. Like New Grange, this ancient monument impresses with its engineering precision and astronomical orientation, but hides even deeper mysteries concerning its purpose and creators. The main mystery of Orc's stone walls lies not only in its colossal volume and precision of construction, but also in its incredible astronomical orientation. The mound is built of massive, carefully fitted stones, many of which weigh several tons. Moving and stacking them, especially to create a complex interior chamber and passage, is a huge engineering challenge for Neolithic people. The seams between the stones are so tight that almost no gaps are visible, which indicates an amazing skill in stone processing. But the most striking thing is the orientation of the main entrance. During the winter solstice, around December 21st, a ray of the setting sun penetrates directly through the narrow 11-meter passage and illuminates the back wall of the central chamber. This event lasts only a few minutes, but its annual accuracy over millennia indicates deep astronomical knowledge and purposeful design on the part of the builders. How could the ancient people, who did not have accurate measuring instruments in advanced mathematics, have achieved such phenomenal accuracy and alignment? This requires years of observation of celestial bodies and the transmission of this knowledge through generations. In addition, Maeshowe is distinguished from many other megalithic monuments by the presence of runic graffiti carved by the Vikings who invaded the Orkney Islands in the 12th century. These runes, left thousands of years after the mound was built, indicate that even for the Vikings, this object was something ancient and mysterious. Some of these inscriptions mention the treasures hidden inside the mound, or tell about mystical events that took place here. Although the runes themselves are not a mystery of technology, their presence adds layers of history to the mystery that already exists, showing that Maeshowe has always been a place surrounded by mysticism and misunderstanding of its true purpose. The Vikings were, in fact, just one of many who tried to make sense of this incredible structure, created long before their arrival. Question of the purpose of the Orc stone walls, it also remains open. Although it is traditionally referred to as a chamber tomb because human bone remains have been found in it, the astronomical orientation and complex internal structure suggest a deeper, possibly ritual or calendar significance. Perhaps it was not just a necropolis, but a place for holding annual ceremonies related to the cycles of life and death, the harvest or the rebirth of the sun on the shortest day of the year. Did it function as a kind of portal or a place of communication with the ancestors? Or was it a repository of knowledge passed down from generation to generation, whose inner workings remain a mystery to us? Such a monumental structure which requires enormous effort and labor organization, indicates the complex social structure of society that existed in the Orkney Islands thousands of years before the advent of statehood. The stone walls of Ork, with its silent but eloquent stones and millennia of history, continue to be one of the most compelling testimonies of the amazing abilities and deep knowledge of ancient cultures that may have had a much greater understanding of the world and the cosmos than we are willing to admit. Mysterious Nephilis sarcophagi traces of ancient technology and inexplicable precision cutting. The mysterious underground galleries known as the Serapeum in Saqqara, Egypt, house one of the most impressive and mysterious collections of ancient Egyptian artifacts, giant granite sarcophagi. These 25 massive, perfectly polished crates, each weighing up to 100 tons along with the lid, are arranged in long, rock-cut passages. Officially, they were intended for the burial of sacred Apis bulls and date from the New Kingdom period to the late period, approximately 1400 to 300 BC. However, their size, material, and most importantly, the incredible precision of processing raise questions to which traditional Egyptology cannot give exhaustive answers. The main mystery of the sarcophagi of the Serapeum is the phenomenal precision and quality of processing of extremely hard granite. Each sarcophagus is carved from a single block of granite, with its internal and external surfaces polished to a mirror-like shine. The corners of the sarcophagi are perfectly straight, and the planes are so flat that the deviation is fractions of a millimeter. Such precision and smoothness is difficult to achieve even with modern machines with diamond attachments. How could the ancient Egyptians, with only copper tools, which are too soft for granite, and abrasive powders, such as quartz sand, at their disposal, carve such huge and precise objects? The process of making even one such sarcophagus using traditional methods would take decades, and here there are 25 of them. The lack of obvious traces of primitive tools such as chisels only adds to the mystery. Some researchers suggest that the ancient Egyptians may have used unknown high-speed cutting tools or even some form of ultrasonic or chemical treatment of stone, which would have allowed them to achieve such incredible accuracy and smoothness. They may have had the knowledge to soften granite or process it at the molecular level. Another intriguing mystery is the colossal weight of the sarcophagi and their lids. How were these 100-ton blocks moved through narrow underground corridors and installed in their proper places? Despite the fact that the Egyptians were masters of moving heavy loads using ramps, levers, and multiple workers, this precision installation in a confined space is a separate engineering puzzle. Some sarcophagi were found empty or with their entrails looted, which raises the question whether they were always used for bull burials or whether their true purpose was different, perhaps related to some energetic or ritual function that required such scale and precision. The question of the actual age of the sarcophagi of the Serapeum, it also remains open. Although they are attributed to the pharaohs of the New Kingdom, their style and methods of stone processing are strikingly different from other structures of the same period. This gives rise to the hypothesis that these sarcophagi could have been created much earlier, perhaps during the Ancient Kingdom period, when it is believed that there were more advanced methods of stone processing, as can be seen in the example of the pyramids of Giza. Or more radically, they could be the legacy of an antediluvian civilization that possessed advanced technology and left these giant containers for purposes we don't yet understand. Perhaps to store some substance, energy, or knowledge. The sarcophagi of the Serapeum, with their silent grandeur and inexplicable precision, continue to challenge traditional Egyptology, providing one of the most compelling evidence for the existence of lost technologies and mysteries hidden in the depths of antiquity. The Moai of Easter Island, the silent guardians, and the mystery of their movement. On the remote Easter Island, or Rapa Nui, in the South Pacific Ocean, there are hundreds of mysterious Moai giant stone statues carved from volcanic tuff. These monumental figures with distinctive elongated faces, deep-set eyes, and massive torsos, many of which weigh up to 75 tons, and some, if completed, could exceed 270 tons, are one of the most recognizable and intriguing archaeological wonders of the world. Dating back to about 1250–1500 AD, Moai were created by the island's indigenous inhabitants, the Rapa Nui, but their true purpose and Most importantly, the methods of their movement and installation are still the subject of heated debate and numerous hypotheses. The main mystery of moai lies in the methods of their transportation and installation. Most of the statues were carved in the Rano Raraku quarry and then moved considerable distances around the island to their ceremonial platforms, ahu. Some of these distances reach up to 18 kilometers over rough terrain. Official science offers several theories about how this could have been done. The use of wooden sleds, skating rinks, ropes, and a huge amount of labor. Some experiments have shown that it would be possible to move the moai using the walking method, swinging them from side to side, or using A-shaped frames. However, these experiments were conducted with much smaller statues and on relatively flat ground. While many of the moai, especially the larger ones, were found lying down on difficult sections of the path or on slopes, indicating unexpected difficulties or crashes during transportation. How could the inhabitants of the island, who did not have draft animals, wheels, and advanced metal tools, move and install such colossal blocks of stone with the required accuracy, especially given their fragility in the process of movement? This task seems impossible for primitive technologies. Another intriguing feature is the pukao, the massive cylindrical caps or hairstyles made of red volcanic rock that some moai wear on their heads. These pukao weigh up to 12 tons and were installed at a height of up to 10 meters. The question of how they were raised to such a height without advanced mechanisms adds another layer of complexity to the mystery of movement. It is assumed that earth ramps could be used, but this would require a huge amount of excavation for each moai. The purpose of the moai is also a matter of debate. It is believed that they represented deified ancestors or important leaders who protected the island. Their faces turned inward rather than toward the sea could symbolize the protection of the population. However, their uniform yet individual appearance, as well as their vast number, create a sense of deeper, perhaps spiritual or ritual significance. Were they part of a complex religious system related to fertility, ancestral worship, or cosmic cycles? Why did their construction suddenly stop, and many moai were left unfinished in the quarries or felled on the way to their ahu? This is often associated with an environmental disaster, the complete depletion of the island's forests, which were supposedly used to move the statues. However, some alternative theories suggest that the builders may have possessed methods or technologies unknown to us, possibly inherited from antediluvian civilizations, which could explain the ease with which they worked with giant stones. Easter Island's moai, with their silent gazes and majestic presence, continue to hold their deep secrets, a constant reminder of the possibilities and mysteries of ancient cultures that still elude our full understanding. Cave paintings of Lascaux, cave mysterious symbols and ancient art. In the French Dordogne region, one of the most impressive and mysterious pieces of ancient art is hidden deep underground, the Lascaux Cave. Discovered in 1940 by 4 teenagers, this cave contains a striking collection of Paleolithic rock carvings dating back to approximately 17,000 BCE, the Upper Paleolithic period. The walls and ceilings of the cave are covered with thousands of images of animals: bulls, horses, deer, bison, cats, and mysterious symbols made with incredible skill and expressiveness, which makes Lascaux the Sistine Chapel of prehistoric art. The main mystery of Lascaux's cave paintings is their incredible quality and realism, as well as their symbolism and purpose. Paleolithic artists used mineral pigments, iron oxides for red and yellow, manganese oxides for black, as well as spray techniques, blowing pigment through hollow bones, and complex contour lines to create three-dimensional and dynamic images. Understanding the anatomy of animals, their movements, and even the perspective, albeit primitive, in these drawings is amazing. How could primitive hunter-gatherers have achieved such a high level of artistic skill and such a deep understanding of the world around them? This requires a complex cultural organization, knowledge transfer, and possibly the availability of specialized artists. However, the greatest mystery is not so much the animals themselves, but the mysterious symbols that are often found next to them. These can be rows of points, geometric shapes, lattices, triangles, and other abstract signs. Many of these characters remain completely unencrypted, Some researchers suggest that these symbols may be proto-writing, some form of pictography or ideography that conveyed information. Perhaps they were astronomical maps, calendar designations, or even constellations. For example, the cluster of dots above the image of a bull is interpreted by some as the Pleiades, while other signs are interpreted as parts of the Milky Way. If this is the case, then the ancient people had much deeper astronomical knowledge than is commonly believed, and could use the caves as a kind of observatory or repository of cosmic information. A question about the purpose of Lascaux Cave. It also causes a lot of controversy. Was it a shrine where shamanic rituals were performed? A place to train young hunters? A repository of knowledge? Or was it a kind of temple of ancient cults related to the animal world and fertility? The fact that most of the drawings are located deep inside the cave, in hard-to-reach places, and that their creation required artificial lighting, ancient animal fat lamps, indicates that this was not just a place to draw, but a sacred space, access to which perhaps only a select few had access. The absence of images of plants or landscapes, as well as the focus on large animals, can also have a deep symbolic meaning associated with the beliefs or myths of that era. The Lascaux Cave, closed to the public because of the danger of damage to the drawings, continues to hold its deep secrets, being a silent witness to the amazing complexity and mystery of ancient cultures whose art and knowledge still surpass our understanding. The Dendarian light device, Egyptian technology, and controversial hypotheses. In the heart of the ancient Egyptian temple complex of Hathor in Dendera, located on the west bank of the Nile, about 60 kilometers north of Luxor, lies one of the most intriguing and hotly debated images, which causes heated debate between supporters of traditional Egyptology and adherents of alternative theories. Deep in one of the crypts underground, where eternal semi-darkness reigns, bas-reliefs can be found on the walls, known as Dender lighting devices or Dender lamps. These images, which date from the late Kingdom period, Ptolemaic period, approximately 4 centuries BC, represent something strikingly similar to giant electric light bulbs or gas discharge tubes, from which a snake appears to emanate, symbolizing an incandescent filament or a stream of energy. For many, these bas-reliefs are not just mythological symbols, but direct evidence of the existence of advanced technological knowledge among the ancient Egyptians that can generate electric light or use other unknown forms of energy. The main and most provocative mystery of the Dendera lighting devices lies in their striking morphological similarity to modern electric lamps and in the context in which they were discovered. The bas-reliefs depict several anthropomorphic figures holding some oblong flask-shaped objects in their hands. These flasks have a tapering end that resembles a plinth and are connected to some kind of stands or supports, which are often interpreted as insulators or holders. Inside each flask, a wriggling snake emerges from the lotus flower, which in Egyptian mythology is often associated with rebirth, light, and creation. This snake, sometimes depicted with a head or tail, stretches to one end of the bulb, where it connects to a symbol that resembles an electrical outlet or connector. In some cases, lines or cables extend from these flasks and lead to a rectangular box that is interpreted as a generator, transformer, or power source. The inscriptions on the bas-reliefs surrounding these images speak of heavenly light and light that does not fade, which only increases the sense of their technological nature. Traditional Egyptology offers a mythological interpretation of these images. According to this view, the lotus symbolizes the primordial hill of creation, from which the god of light, sun, and wisdom, Atum-Ra or Khepri, emerged. The serpent within the lotus is usually identified with the creator god emerging from the waters of primeval chaos, Nuna, or with the aspect of the god Horus, who embodies light and life. The whole scene is thus an allegorical representation of cosmogony, the birth of divine light, and the cycles of rebirth. The Mene-Bulb, in this case, is nothing more than a symbolic space of creation, and cables and sockets are stylized images of plant stems or other mythological elements. However, critics of this interpretation point to the excessive detail and functionality of the depicted elements, which seem redundant for a purely symbolic representation. Why not depict light more abstractly if it's just a myth? The second equally important argument in favor of the hypothesis of ancient technologies is the phenomenal absence of soot marks on the ceilings and walls of most ancient Egyptian tombs, temples, and corridors located deep underground, including in the Dendera crypt itself. If the ancient Egyptians used torches, oil lamps, or other sources of open fire for lighting, then significant layers of soot, and tar would have settled on these surfaces over thousands of years. However, there are practically no such traces, and the ceiling surfaces often remain perfectly clean, preserving the original painting and hieroglyphs. This suggests that light sources that do not produce combustion products may have been used for lighting. That is, closed systems like modern electric lamps or other forms of artificial light, possibly even fluorescent ones. Some researchers draw parallels with the Baghdad battery, suggesting that these could be parts of a single, widespread, but now lost technology. If the Denderian lighting devices were indeed technological devices, it would mean that the ancient Egyptians had a deep knowledge of electricity, its generation and use, which completely upends our understanding of their technological level. This would put them millennia ahead of what we normally attribute to the ancient world. Where could such knowledge have come from? Were they developed by the Egyptians themselves during a long and unknown scientific process that would prove the existence of a lost science that was later forgotten or suppressed? Or was it knowledge inherited from an older, antediluvian civilization, which may have possessed advanced technologies and passed them on to the survivors of a global cataclysm? As is often described in myths and legends about the gods who brought knowledge, some even suggest that these images may be evidence of contact with extraterrestrial civilization that may have passed on their technology or left instructions to ancient people. This approach, while speculative, attempts to explain phenomenal anomalies that cannot be squeezed into the framework of traditional archaeology. Disputes around the Dendersky lighting devices continues, and each side presents its own arguments. However, their existence forces us to think about the limits of our knowledge of the past and the possibility of the existence of technologies that have been lost or hidden. These bas-reliefs, with their unique pictorial detail and anomalous similarity to modern devices, continue to be one of the most controversial and intriguing mysteries of ancient Egypt. They silently ask whether the Egyptians were not the heirs of a much more advanced era, whose secrets are still hidden in stone and hieroglyphs, waiting for the full disclosure and rethinking of the entire history of civilization. The Nazca Line's giant geoglyphs, cosmic messages, and ancient engineering secrets. On the arid Nazca plateaus of southern Peru, one of the most grandiose, intriguing, and discussed archaeological phenomena in the world is the Nazca Line. These colossal geoglyphs, carved on the desert surface between 500 BC and 500 AD, cover an area of about 450 square kilometers. They depict animals, hummingbirds, monkeys, lizards, spiders, fish, pelicans, dogs, geometric shapes and trapezoids, triangles, spirals, rectangles, and most strikingly, long, perfectly straight lines stretching for many kilometers. These drawings, which are almost impossible to recognize from ground level, but which become clearly visible only from a high altitude, for example from an airplane or helicopter, cause a whole cascade of questions. Who created them? How? For what purpose? And to whom they were addressed if they could not be seen from Earth? The main mystery of the Nazca Lines lies in their incredible size, engineering accuracy, and unique method of creation. The geoglyphs were created by removing dark, oxidized rocks, sedimentary gravel with iron oxide, from the desert surface, exposing a lighter, softer clay soil underneath. The average depth of the lines is only 10-30 centimeters, which makes them extremely vulnerable to erosion. But due to the unique climatic conditions of the Nazca Plateau, almost complete absence of rain and strong winds, these drawings have been preserved for thousands of years. The scale of these drawings is amazing. Some of them reach hundreds of meters in length. For example, the image of a lizard is about 180 meters and a monkey is 93 meters. And straight lines extend for tens of kilometers while maintaining perfect straightness and accuracy, despite the rough terrain, hills, and ravines. How could the ancient Nazca Indians, unable to take to the air, create such gigantic and geometrically accurate images? Traditional theories involve the use of sophisticated engineering techniques, such as scaling with nets, ropes, wooden stakes, and high-elevation sighting systems. The researchers conducted experiments trying to reproduce some lines and came to the conclusion that this is theoretically possible with a large number of workers and long calculations. However, even so, achieving such phenomenal accuracy, especially for complex curved shapes, over such a huge area seems incredible for primitive technologies. Maintaining a straight line for kilometers would require constant and accurate measurements using high-precision geodetic instruments, as well as the ability to observe the progress of work from a height that hints at the presence of either natural elevations used as observation posts or, as some suggest, artificial aircraft. There are even hypotheses that the Nazca Indians may have used primitive balloons or kites to observe their work, although no archaeological evidence has been found. Another intriguing feature is the possible astronomical and calendar purpose of the Nazca lines. Maria Reich, a German mathematician and archaeologist who devoted more than 50 years of her life to the study and preservation of geoglyphs, was one of the first to suggest that many of the lines and figures could be a giant astronomical calendar or observatory. According to her theory, some lines indicate the points of sunrise or sunset of certain stars, constellations, as well as important astronomical events such as solstices and equinoxes. If this is the case, then the ancient Nazca people had much deeper astronomical knowledge than is commonly believed, and could have used the plateau as a giant tool to track the celestial cycles that were important for their agriculture, determining the time of sowing and harvesting, and religious rituals. Other theories suggest that the lines may have been part of a complex irrigation system, indicating underground water sources or sacred paths leading to ritual centers where ceremonies related to water and fertility, vital for survival in an arid region, were held. However, perhaps the most profound and provocative mystery is who these giant drawings were addressed to and for whom they were created, if they could not be seen from the ground with the human eye. This question gives rise to bold hypotheses that the Nazca lines may have been intended for higher powers, gods inhabiting the heavens, or even for extraterrestrial civilizations that may have visited Earth in ancient times. Some proponents of this idea suggest that the lines could serve as giant landmarks or landing strips for spaceships, or be a kind of giant symbolic messages designed to transmit information from above. Although it sounds like science fiction, this hypothesis attempts to explain the apparent discrepancy between the scale of drawings and their visual perception. Perhaps the Nazca lines are an ancient calling card or greeting from humanity to someone who could observe them from above. The Nazca lines, with their grandiose mystery, silent messages carved into the desert, and their ability to provoke fierce controversy, continue to be one of the greatest archaeological phenomena. They force us to re-examine the possibilities of ancient cultures and ask questions about hidden pages in human history, perhaps involving technologies beyond our current understanding, or even extraterrestrial influences. Future research may be able to reveal the true purpose of these incredible geoglyphs, which have been patiently waiting for thousands of years to be fully deciphered. The Voynich manuscript, an unsolved codex, and the mystery of an unknown language. Among the treasures of the Beinecke Rare Book Beinecke Library at Yale University is one of the most enduring and intriguing mysteries in the world of cryptography and linguistics, the Voynich manuscript. This ancient folio, written on parchment and illustrated with hundreds of strange plant drawings, astronomical diagrams, alchemical vessels, and nude female figures, has been radiocarbon dated to the early 15th century, circa 1404 to 1438. However, the real reason for its secrecy lies not in the age or illustrations, but in the unknown language or cipher in which it is written. No linguist or cryptographer in recent centuries has been able to decipher a single word, making the Voynich manuscript the most mysterious book in the world. The main mystery of the Voynich manuscript lies in its unknown, completely unique writing and language. The manuscript consists of 240 pages, written from left to right, using an alphabet that is unlike any known written language on Earth. The symbols in this alphabet, there are about 20-30 basic ones, are repeated with unusual frequency and in unusual combinations, which immediately rejects the hypothesis of a simple random set of characters. Linguistic analysis has shown that the text has statistical properties characteristic of natural languages, for example, a certain frequency of occurrence of letters and syllables, as well as patterns of repetition of words. However, none of the existing methods of decoding, be it frequency analysis, anagram search, or comparison with known languages, brought results. The lack of spaces between words in some parts of the text, as well as the unusual structure of sentences, only complicate the task. Some researchers suggest that this may be a complex cipher, possibly polyalphabetic, or steganography, a hidden message hidden inside an apparently meaningless text. Other theories hypothesize that it may be an entirely new, extinct, or even artificially created language, perhaps as a kind of alien language or angelic language that alchemists or mystics of the time might have dreamed of. Another intriguing feature is the cryptic illustrations that accompany the text. The manuscript is divided into sections, each of which is dedicated to its own topic. The botanical section contains drawings of plants, many of which are unlike any known species on Earth, which gives rise to speculation about extinct plants, plants from other planets, or fantastic images. The astronomy section includes diagrams of celestial bodies, some of which appear to depict star clusters or galaxies, viewed from a unique, unusual perspective. The biological section consists of drawings of nude female figures submerged in mysterious reservoirs or connected to them by pipelines. These illustrations, although made with some artistic convention, do not provide clues to the decipherment of the text and only deepen its mystery. Perhaps they are just a trick to distract attention, or on the contrary, they contain hidden clues that we still cannot interpret. The question of the purpose and authorship of Voynich, the manuscript, also remains unanswered. Who created this book and for what purpose? Was it a scientific work, an encrypted medical treatise, an alchemical manual, a magical grimoire, or just a hoax? If this is a hoax, then it is one of the most ingenious and sophisticated forgeries in history, since creating such a volume of text with such a statistical pattern would require incredible intellectual work and knowledge. Some speculate that the author may have been Leonardo da Vinci, although this is unlikely from the dating, Roger Bacon, or an unknown genius. The lack of mention of the manuscript in historical sources until the 17th century, when it first surfaced in Europe, only adds layers of mystery. The Voynich manuscript, with its silent, unreadable text and surreal illustrations, continues to be a symbol of the unknown. It reminds us that in the past there may have been knowledge, languages, or even forms of thought that are now completely lost and inaccessible to our understanding, perhaps a fragment of some older, antediluvian intellectual tradition. The stone pillars of Santa Catalina Titan technology and unexplained ruins. In the Philippines, in the province of Cagayan, among the dense tropical vegetation of the island of Luzon, there are mysterious ruins known as the stone columns of Santa Catalina. These monumental formations, consisting of huge, perfectly crafted stone blocks and columns, are scattered over a vast area and are virtually unknown outside of local academia and among alternative history enthusiasts. Unlike the more famous megalithic sites, these ruins lack clear historical attribution and dating, making them one of Southeast Asia's most intriguing unsolved mysteries and potential evidence of a lost civilization in the region. The main mystery of the stone columns of Santa Catalina is their colossal size, incredible precision processing, and incomprehensible origin. The ruins consist of huge cylindrical or rectangular blocks and columns carved from hard rock, presumably granite or basalt, some of which reach several meters in height and presumably weigh tens or even hundreds of tons. Many of these blocks have perfectly smooth, polished surfaces and precise angles, which suggests the use of advanced stone processing technologies that are not available to the ancient cultures of the Philippines that we know about. Some of the columns show marks that look like the result of high-precision cutting or grinding, which is difficult to explain by using primitive tools such as stone or bronze chisels. The traditional stone processing techniques used in the region during known historical periods differ significantly in scale and accuracy from what is observed in Santa Catalina. The question of how to transport and install these giant columns also remains open. The surrounding area, despite the relatively flat terrain in some places, is still covered with dense vegetation, and the nearest potential quarries could be located at a considerable distance. Moving multi-ton blocks without using a wheel or complex mechanisms is a huge engineering challenge. The lack of written sources, local legends that might shed light on their construction, or clear archaeological evidence of a culture capable of such feats only adds to the mystery. Another intriguing feature is the uncertainty of their purpose and dating. These columns are scattered without apparent logic, without forming a whole complex, which makes it difficult to determine their function. Were they part of a temple complex, a palace, or some other now-destroyed structure? Perhaps it was the remains of port facilities, lighthouses, or even some power plants, if we consider the most daring hypotheses. Some researchers suggest that these ruins may be much older than is commonly believed, and may belong to an era when sea levels were different, and the geography of the region was significantly different. This could indicate that these pillars are the legacy of a lost antediluvian civilization that may have existed in Southeast Asia. These titans of the Stone Age, if their artificial origin is finally proved and dated to the most ancient period, can become one of the most convincing proofs of the existence of highly developed societies that were wiped off the face of the earth by global cataclysms. Locals pass on vague tales of giants or gods who had the power to move huge rocks, but these stories do not provide concrete answers. The stone pillars of Santa Catalina, rising silently amid tropical greenery, remain one of the most unexplored and intriguing mysteries, challenging our understanding of ancient technology and geography. They offer a glimpse into a possible past where powerful civilizations may have flourished in a region that today seems remote and poorly understood, leaving only mysterious traces of its grandiose but lost heritage. Further research, despite the complexity of access and lack of funding, can completely change our understanding of the history of the Philippines and the entire Pacific region. Map of Arance Phineas. The mystery of the ancient ice continent and the limits of cartography. Among the most striking and controversial artifacts that challenge the official chronology of geographical discoveries and technological capabilities of ancient civilizations, the map of Arance Phineas occupies a special place. Created by French cartographer Arance Phineas in 1531, this world map, like the better-known Piri Reis map, depicts parts of the world with amazing accuracy, but its main sensation is the detailed image of Antarctica without ice cover, as well as rivers, mountain ranges, and coastlines that could only be seen during the period when the world's most famous map was created, when the continent was free of ice. This fact raises a staggering question for researchers. How could a cartographer in the 16th century have had such accurate information about a continent that will not be officially discovered until almost 300 years later, and whose pre-glacial landscapes are still being studied with the help of advanced technologies? The main mystery of the map of Arance Phineas is rooted in its incredible geographical accuracy and, in particular, in the image of pre-glacial Antarctica. The map of Phineas, made in a rare heart-shaped projection, cordiform, is not just a conventional image of the South Pole, but a surprisingly detailed map that shows not only the general outline of the continent, but also specific geographical features such as mountain ranges, valleys, and rivers, which are currently hidden under a multi-kilometer layer ice. Comparisons with modern maps of Antarctica created using seismic exploration and radar technologies show a striking overlap of some elements, especially in the area of Queen Maud Land. However, for these details to be visible, Antarctica must have been ice-free. According to paleoclimatology, the last time such conditions existed on the continent was about 10,000 tours, 15,000 thousands of years ago, that is, thousands of years before the appearance of any known civilization capable of global mapping. This calls into question not only the chronology of geographical discoveries, but also the entire usual path of development of human civilization. The question arises, where did Arance Phineas, who lived at the beginning of the 17th century, get such accurate information? Phineas itself, like Piri Reis, most likely compiled its map from more ancient sources. This means that somewhere in the past there were maps created using incredibly advanced cartographic methods that allowed not only accurately plotting huge territories on the map, but also displaying their features that are invisible to the naked eye and inaccessible to ground research. This could only be achieved by aerial or even space-based observations, or by using completely unknown technologies to map the area under the ice or over long distances. If these ancient sources existed, then they were created by a civilization with geodesic knowledge and technologies far beyond the capabilities of even the 15th century, not to mention prehistoric eras. This gives rise to hypotheses that the map is Phineas. It is proof of the existence of a highly developed antediluvian civilization that flourished on Earth during the last ice age. This civilization could have had global knowledge of the planet, advanced mapping skills and technologies that were later lost as a result of some global cataclysm, such as the Great Flood described in the myths of many peoples of the world. Knowledge could have been passed down from generation to generation through oral tradition or preserved in the form of rare artifacts, such ancient maps that miraculously survived to the Middle Ages. Or, as the most daring versions suggest, such knowledge could have been transmitted to humanity by extraterrestrial civilizations that visited Earth and left their traces in the form of maps or other high-tech artifacts. The map of Orontius Phineas, with its silent but eloquent testimony to vanished landscapes and lost knowledge, continues to be one of the greatest anomalies in the history of cartography and a powerful argument in favor of revising the generally accepted chronology of human development. It makes us think about how many more secrets are hidden in the past of our planet, waiting to be discovered and confirmed, and how little we actually know about those who lived on Earth before us. The pyramids of China forgotten monuments and the mystery of their hidden history. In the central provinces of China, especially around the city of Xi'an, there are hundreds of mysterious structures known as the Pyramids of China. Unlike their Egyptian counterparts, these giant earth mounds, many of which are truncated pyramids or stepped mausoleums, remained relatively little known outside of China until recently, and were surrounded by a halo of secrecy and government restrictions on research. Although some of them are officially identified as the tombs of emperors of various dynasties, for example, the mausoleum of the first emperor Qin Shi Huang, next to which the Terracotta Army is located, the existence of many others, much older and more massive, makes us think about a deeper and more complex history of their origin, which goes beyond the known Chinese chronology. The main mystery of the pyramids of China lies in their colossal size, supposed antiquity, and relatively little study. Many of these pyramids are much larger than the famous Egyptian ones, reaching heights of up to 100 meters and having bases hundreds of meters long. For example, the so-called White Pyramid is rumored to have reached a height of more than 300 meters, although its exact location and existence as a single structure is still disputed due to government restrictions on exploration, which would make it the tallest ancient structure on the planet. Unlike the Egyptian pyramids, the Chinese pyramids are mostly built of rammed earth and clay, less soils, and then lined with stone or brick, which has collapsed over time. However, the scale of earthworks required for the construction of such giants is amazing. This required huge resources, labor, and a complex organization of labor. The question of the real age of many Chinese pyramids is the subject of heated debate. Although some of them are attributed to specific emperors of the last 2,000 years, there is evidence pointing to a much older origin for others. Local legends and ancient texts mention forefathers who descended from the sky and taught people how to build, which may be an echo of older civilizations or even extraterrestrial influences. Some researchers, based on astronomical landmarks and stylistic features, suggest that the oldest pyramids may date back thousands of years before the appearance of the first Chinese dynasties, which challenges the traditional chronology of Chinese history and indicates the existence of antediluvian civilizations in Asia. These forgotten pyramids, hidden under the cover of land and vegetation, may be the legacy of much more advanced cultures whose achievements were erased from memory or deliberately hidden. Another intriguing feature is the strict restrictions on archaeological research and excavation imposed by the Chinese government. For a long time, the existence of many pyramids was generally denied, and information about them was classified. Even now, access to most of them is limited, and full-scale excavations are rare. This gives rise to many conspiracy theories about the possible concealment of information, that the Chinese government is hiding evidence of unknown civilizations, advanced technologies, or even extraterrestrial contacts that could be found inside these giant mounds. Perhaps they fear that the discoveries could undermine the official historical narrative or have geopolitical implications. Why is there such secrecy around seemingly ordinary tombs? The lack of transparency only adds to the mystery and gives rise to speculation that there may be much more inside these pyramids than just the remains of emperors. The purpose of Chinese pyramids, in addition to the function of tombs, can also be more complex. Were they also centers of power, observatories, or did they have some other, perhaps ritual or symbolic meaning associated with the heavenly mandate? And the connection between the emperors and the divine? Some researchers also suggest that their location may form a kind of energy grid or astronomical complex. The pyramids of China, with their monumentality, hidden history, and state veil of secrecy, continue to be one of the greatest unsolved architectural wonders. They silently ask how many more secrets the Chinese land holds, and how much we don't really know about the ancient history of one of the world's oldest civilizations, which may have been the heir to a much more mysterious and advanced past. Geoglyphs of the Atacama giant outlines and secrets of the ancient desert. In one of the driest deserts on Earth, the Atacama in Chile, hundreds of mysterious geoglyphs are scattered over hundreds of square kilometers. Giant images carved into the slopes of hills and plateaus. These colossal drawings, which, like the Nazca lines, are best seen from a height, depict not only anthropomorphic figures, the most famous of which is the giant of the Atacama, but also zoomorphic images, abstract geometric patterns, and most intriguingly, complex patterns that resemble calendars or navigational signs. Dating from 1000 to 1400 AD, these geoglyphs are the legacy of various pre-Inca cultures, such as Tiwanaku and Aymara, but their true purpose and methods of creation remain the subject of deep scientific debate and alternative hypotheses. The main mystery of the Atacama geoglyphs lies in their colossal scale, variety of shapes, and precise orientation. Unlike Nazca lines, which are made by removing dark stones, Atacama geoglyphs were created both by removing the top layer, for light images, and by piling stones, for dark images, which require different techniques and possibly different periods of creation. The largest of them, the giant of the Atacama in Cerro Unidas, reaches 86 meters in length and depicts an anthropomorphic figure with a horned head and symbols resembling lightning or snakes. Its scale and hillside location, allowing it to be seen from afar, indicate its monumental significance. Other geoglyphs include huge images of llamas, foxes, and birds, as well as numerous circles, squares, triangles, and spirals, some of which have complex internal structures and repetitive elements. The question of how to create these giant drawings without the possibility of aerial observation remains central. Although traditional explanations suggest the use of rope, peg, and scale systems using elevated areas, such as hilltops, achieving such precision and proportion over vast areas without a single error seems incredible for primitive technologies. Creating straight lines that extend for kilometers through uneven terrain requires geodetic knowledge and tools that, in our opinion, did not exist at that time. This leads many researchers to look for explanations outside of traditional archaeology, suggesting the possible use of balloons or other unknown flying devices that would allow ancient Indians to see their works from a height and correct them. Another intriguing feature is the intended purpose of geoglyphs. The most common theory is that they served as navigational signs for caravans crossing the desert, pointing the way to water sources, oases, or trade routes. Their location on hillsides facing ancient paths supports this hypothesis. However, the complexity and artistic value of some images, as well as their astronomical orientation, indicate a deeper ritual or calendar significance. Many geoglyphs are aligned with specific positions of the sun, moon, or stars on specific days of the year, which could serve as a giant astronomical calendar for determining the time of sowing, harvesting, or performing important ceremonies. The figure of the giant of the Atacama, for example, could be associated with the worship of rain or fertility deities. Perhaps they were sacred signs meant to communicate with the gods who dwell in the heavens, or to attract rain to an arid region. Some alternative hypotheses go even further, suggesting that geoglyphs may have been created for more than just humans. If they were really intended to be observed from the air, this raises questions about who or what might have been observing them from above. Perhaps they were messages for extraterrestrial civilizations that visited Earth in ancient times, or they served as a kind of sacred maps or portals for mystical travel. These theories, although speculative in nature, try to explain the monumentality and invisibility of geoglyphs from Earth. The Atacama geoglyphs, with their silent but majestic messages carved into the barren desert slopes, continue to be one of the greatest archaeological mysteries. They force us to re-examine the possibilities of ancient cultures and ask questions about hidden pages in human history, perhaps related to technologies beyond our current understanding, or even extraterrestrial influences that have left their marks in the stone and sand. These giant drawings, like hieroglyphs on the surface of a planet, are patiently waiting to be fully deciphered, offering clues to forgotten worlds and lost knowledge. Adam's underwater bridge, ancient ruins in the Indian Ocean, and the mysteries of the oldest buildings. In the Indian Ocean, between the coasts of India, Tamil Nadu, and Sri Lanka, stretches a chain of sandbanks known as Adam's Bridge or Rama Bridge. This natural formation, consisting of limestone shoals jutting out above the surface of the water, and in some places hidden under it, has been the subject of local legends for centuries. The Hindu epic Ramayana describes how the god Rama built a bridge of stones with the help of his army of monkeys, Vanaras, to save his wife Sita. However, recent studies and satellite images have shown that this chain of shoals has a surprisingly straight and regular shape, which has given rise to speculation about its possible artificial origin, or at least that it was significantly modified by ancient builders. The main mystery of the Adam Bridge lies in its unusual geological structure and potential signs of artificial interference. Although official science considers Adam's Bridge to be a natural geological formation that arose as a result of tectonic activity and sedimentary processes, satellite images from NASA and other space agencies, as well as studies of the sea floor, revealed a striking regularity and straightness of this structure. Some sections of the bridge look like chains of large stone blocks arranged in even rows, which seems uncharacteristic for exclusively natural formations. In addition, studies have revealed the presence of basalt rocks and other materials that are not typical of sandbanks, which may have been transported there. The water depth above the bridge ranges from 1 to 10 meters, which makes it partially passable at low tide. The question of the age of Adam's Bridge is also hotly debated. Geological data based on radiocarbon dating of corals and sediments in the bridge area show that the youngest formations here date back approximately 3,000 to 4,000 years ago. However, these dates relate only to the surface layers and do not exclude that the main structure could have been laid much earlier. The Hindu epic Ramayana dates back thousands of years before our era, and if the Rama Bridge described in it is the same Bridge of Adam, then this indicates its much older origin, perhaps up to 18,000 years ago, which corresponds to a period when the sea level was much lower and this area could have been destroyed. Be land or shallow water. If the bridge is truly man-made, or at least was significantly modified by humans, then this means the existence of a highly developed antediluvian civilization in the region, which had grandiose engineering capabilities capable of building structures of this scale in the ocean. Another intriguing feature is the giant stone blocks that were supposedly used to build the bridge. The Ramayana legends speak of floating stones that were used to build the bridge. Although modern research has not confirmed the presence of floating stones in the Adam Bridge, the idea of using huge blocks of stone for such a large-scale construction is a mystery in itself. How could the ancient builders have mined, transported, and laid such massive stones in the ocean? Even if the bridge was built at a time when the sea level was lower, it would still require tremendous effort, labor, and advanced engineering knowledge that was not typical for that period. Official archaeology and geology generally insist on the natural origin of the Adam Bridge, explaining its unusual shape by tectonic processes, barrier reef formation, and erosion. However, proponents of alternative theories point out the excessive straightness and regularity of the structure, which seems too ideal for a purely natural formation. It is possible that the Adam Bridge is not entirely man-made, but the result of ancient engineering works to strengthen or use an existing natural formation. In this case, it would be a testament to the colossal hydraulic engineering knowledge and abilities of ancient civilizations. Adam's Bridge, submerged in the waters of the Indian Ocean, continues to be one of the most controversial and intriguing mysteries linking ancient legends with modern scientific evidence. He silently asks how many more amazing structures and traces of antediluvian civilizations are hidden under the waters of our oceans, waiting to be discovered and fully revealed. Costa Rica's stone balls, the perfect sphere, and unknown creators. In the tropical jungles and coasts of Costa Rica, especially in the Dicas River Delta, there are hundreds of mysterious stone balls, known as Las Bolas de Costa Rica. These perfectly spherical objects, carved from hard rocks, mostly granite or gabbro, range in size from a few centimeters to more than 2.5 meters in diameter, and the largest of them weighs more than 16 tons. Dating from 200 BC to 800 AD, they were created by pre-Columbian cultures whose names and history are largely lost. However, the main mystery lies not in their age, but in the almost perfect sphericity and methods of their creation, which remain inexplicable for the technologies of that time. The main mystery of Costa Rican stone balls lies in their amazing geometric accuracy and skill in stone processing. Many of these spheres have an incredibly high degree of sphericity. The deviation from the ideal shape is only a few millimeters. Achieving this precision on hard rocks such as granite is a huge engineering challenge. Traditional explanations suggest that ancient craftsmen used primitive tools such as stone hammers and abrasive materials such as sand for grinding and polishing. They probably focused on natural spherical boulders or on their own visual standards. However, manual processing of stone to such a degree of perfection, especially for the largest and heaviest spheres, which weigh tens of tons, is extremely difficult, time-consuming and almost impossible without the use of sophisticated measuring instruments and technologies that allow you to constantly check the sphericity on all planes. The lack of obvious traces of tools that could explain their creation only adds to the mystery. The question arises, how could the ancient craftsmen cut and polish granite so precisely, giving it a perfect shape, if they did not have metal tools or machines? Another intriguing feature is the unknown purpose of these spheres. Despite decades of research, archaeologists have not been able to come to a consensus about their function. They were found in various places, in groups, singly, near settlements, burials, and sometimes far from them. Some theories suggest that they may have served as symbols of status or power for leaders or elites. Others believe they may have been astronomical landmarks or part of some giant calendar marking the solstices or equinoxes. Some scientists suggest that they could have been used for navigational purposes, marking paths or territory boundaries. There are also hypotheses that they could have religious or ritual significance, symbolizing perfection, the sun, or other cosmic objects in the worldview of ancient cultures. The lack of any written language among the creators of these spheres makes their interpretation even more difficult. Question about transportation methods. These multi-ton stone balls from the quarries to their installation sites also remain open. The quarries from which the stone was extracted were sometimes located at a considerable distance, and the landscape of Costa Rica is a rugged area with hills, rivers, and dense forests. Moving a 16-ton granite ball without the use of a wheel or draft animals is a monumental task that requires a huge amount of labor, complex logistics, and possibly the use of unknown engineering devices. Local legends, of course, tell us that the balls were created or moved by gods or beings with extraordinary power, which is a typical explanation for megalithic structures when there is no rational one. Alternative theories go beyond archaeological explanations. Some proponents of these ideas suggest that the stone balls of Costa Rica may have been created by a highly advanced antediluvian civilization that possessed lost technologies in stone processing, possibly using sound waves, vibrations, or other forms of energy to form stone with such precision. In this context, their appearance could have been part of an older global culture that left similar traces in different parts of the world. Others, the most daring hypotheses, connect them with extraterrestrial intervention, suggesting that these may be some kind of markers or messages from aliens or even particles left by their technologies. Costa Rica's stone balls, with their silent perfection and unsolved purpose, continue to be one of the most intriguing archaeological mysteries. They make us think about the possibilities of ancient cultures and about those hidden pages of human history that are still waiting to be fully revealed, challenging the usual ideas about the development of civilization. Sacsayhuaman megalithic walls and the secret of the Inca castles. High in the Andes above the Inca capital of Cusco in Peru stands the majestic Sacsayhuaman complex, or Sacsayhuaman, which means falcon's head in Quechua. Built from giant polygonal stone blocks, this monumental fortress or ceremonial center is one of the most impressive examples of Inca architecture, dating back to around the 15th century AD. However, despite the official attribution to the Incas, the construction methods, and most importantly, the incredible accuracy of fitting these multi-ton blocks raise many questions and give rise to hypotheses about a much older origin, possibly associated with pre-Inca or even antediluvian civilizations. The main mystery of Sacsayhuaman lies in its colossal scale, unique polygonal masonry, and incredible accuracy of stone fitting. The walls of Sacsayhuaman consist of huge, irregularly shaped stone blocks, some of which weigh up to 125 to 150 tons. These blocks, cut from limestone, are perfectly fitted together without the use of any mortar. The seams between the stones are so thin that it is impossible to push even a knife blade between them, and the surfaces of the blocks are so precisely processed that they form almost a single, continuous wall. This so-called polygonal masonry is a characteristic feature of many megalithic structures in the Andes. But in Sacsayhuaman, it reaches its apogee. How could the Incas, who had no wheels, iron, steel, or draft animals, have extracted, transported, and most importantly, adjusted multi-ton blocks of stone with such filigree precision, creating such complex angular connections? The nearest quarries were a considerable distance away, and moving hundreds of such giant boulders over rough mountainous terrain was a monumental engineering task for which traditional explanations, using thousands of workers, ramps, and levers, seem insufficient. Another intriguing feature is the amazing earthquake resistance of the buildings of Sacsayhuaman. The Andes region is an area of high seismic activity, and many later Spanish buildings in Cusco were destroyed by earthquakes. However, the walls of Sacsayhuaman, built from these giant blocks, withstood numerous powerful tremors over the centuries. Their polygonal shape and tight fit provide flexibility and vibration resistance, which is a sign of advanced engineering knowledge in the field of earthquake-resistant construction. This makes you wonder if it was the result of centuries of experience or evidence of inherited knowledge from a more advanced civilization. The question of realnum vozres to Sacsayhuaman's real age is also the subject of heated debate. Although the complex is officially attributed to the Incas, many researchers, including those who adhere to alternative theories, point out that the masonry style of Sacsayhuaman differs significantly from the more typical, less massive, and less accurate Inca architecture. This gives rise to the hypothesis that Sacsayhuaman, or at least its most ancient and monumental parts, may have been built by the pre-Inca civilization that existed thousands of years before the Incas, and the Incas only used or completed existing ruins. Perhaps they were the remnants of an antediluvian culture that flourished in the Andes before some global cataclysm. This original civilization may have possessed advanced stone processing technologies that allowed it to work with such masses and precision. Also mysterious is the purpose of Sacsayhuaman. Although it is commonly referred to as a fortress, some elements of its construction, such as perfectly polished seats or thrones, carved directly from the rock in ceremonial squares, indicate that it may also have been a grand ceremonial or religious center, possibly associated with astronomical observations or sun worship. Local legends about soft stones that could be formed or moved by sound, vibration, or unknown energies also add a mystical element to the mystery. Sacsayhuaman, with its silent grandeur and unfathomable precision, continues to be one of the most compelling pieces of evidence for the existence of lost technologies and mysteries hidden in the depths of antiquity. It challenges our usual ideas about the capabilities of ancient people and invites us to rethink the entire history of civilization on Earth. Bimini Atlantis, underwater ruins in the Caribbean and geological anomalies. Off the coast of North Bimini in the Bahamas, at a depth of only a few meters, there is one of the most controversial and intriguing underwater structures, the so-called Bimini Road or Bimini Wall. This unusual underwater formation, discovered in 1968, is a long, almost perfectly straight strip of large regular limestone blocks arranged in even rows. Despite the fact that official geology tends to explain it by natural processes, many researchers and enthusiasts see it as an indisputable proof of the existence of a sunken city or structure associated with the legendary Atlantis, which, according to Plato, was behind the Pillars of Hercules. The main mystery of the Bimini Road is its amazing geometric correctness and similarity with man-made structures. The formation consists of thousands of large, flat, rectangular, or polygonal limestone blocks that appear to be laid out as a paved road or wall about 800 meters long. Many blocks have the same size and shape, and their arrangement gives the impression of deliberate, ordered masonry. Some blocks look so flat and smooth that it is difficult to explain this by natural processes of erosion or deposition. Although skeptics claim that this is just the result of natural destruction of coastal rocks caused by tectonic movements or sea currents, proponents of artificial origin point to all too obvious signs of intelligent design. For example, the presence of almost perfect angles, parallel lines, and repetition of certain block sizes, which is not typical for random geological formations. If it was a natural formation, it would most likely have a more chaotic and irregular appearance. The question of the age and origin of the Bimini Road is key to its mystery. If this structure is truly man-made, then it must have been built on land when the sea level was significantly lower. According to geologists, the sea level in this region was 610 or 8 meters lower than the current one. $8,000, $12,000. It was a few hundred years ago, at the end of the last ice age and the beginning of the Holocene. This means that if the Bimini Road is an ancient structure, then it was built by a civilization that existed long before. According to the official chronology, people began to build monumental buildings. This directly indicates the possibility of a highly developed antediluvian civilization in the Caribbean, which was absorbed by the ocean as a result of a sharp rise in sea level or a geological cataclysm. This hypothesis is in good agreement with the legends of Atlantis, which, according to Plato, was located in the Atlantic Ocean and was destroyed in a catastrophic way. Another intriguing feature is the other underwater anomalies found in the Bimini area. In addition to the road, divers and researchers report the presence of other regular geometric shapes, such as round structures, rectangular platforms, and even columns located nearby. While these reports are less confirmed, they fuel the idea that Bimini Road may not be an isolated anomaly, but part of a much larger, now submerged complex or city. Studies conducted using sonar and underwater cameras have also revealed the presence of other structures beneath the sand deposits that require further study. The lack of full-fledged archaeological excavations and systematic scientific study of the Bimini Road only increases its mystery. Despite decades of controversy, the official scientific community often ignores this finding or explains it solely by natural causes, which causes criticism from supporters of alternative theories. Perhaps the reluctance to recognize the artificial origin of the Bimini Road is due to the fact that such recognition would require a complete revision of our ideas about the ancient history of mankind and about the possibilities of antediluvian civilizations. Bimini Road, with its silent but eloquent rocks hidden beneath the clear waters of the Caribbean Sea, continues to be one of the most compelling and controversial mysteries, offering a glimpse into a possible past where powerful civilizations flourished and disappeared, leaving only barely noticeable but deeply intriguing traces. It invites us to continue our research, which could reveal the true history of lost worlds and legendary continents. Rafting Valley City Forgotten, Citadel and Cyclops architecture. In the depths of the Sierra Nevada mountain range in Colombia, The ruins of a lost city known as Lost City, Ciudad Perdida, or Rafting Valley City, are hidden in a remote and densely overgrown rainforest valley, Gora Dolina Rafting. Built by the Tyrone civilization around 800 AD, this impressive archaeological site includes a complex network of terraces, staircases, plazas, and stone roads carved into the mountainsides. Although it was abandoned after the Spanish conquest and remained hidden from the outside world for centuries until it was rediscovered in the 1970s, its grandeur and engineering excellence still raise eyebrows and questions about how such an advanced civilization could have flourished in such harsh conditions, and whether it is just a place to explore, a fragment of something much older. The main mystery of the Rafting Valley City lies in its amazing engineering complexity and unique adaptation to the mountain landscape. The city consists of about 169 stone terraces laid out of giant blocks, which rise up the slopes of the mountain, connected by a complex network of more than 200 stone steps and roads. These terraces didn't just create flat surfaces for building construction, they also served to control erosion and create farmland. Stonework, although not as perfectly polygonal as in Peru, is strong and durable, allowing it to withstand the harsh conditions of the mountain climate and constant erosion for more than 1,000 years. How could the Tyrone civilization, lacking advanced metal tools and modern construction techniques, have built such a colossal complex in such a remote area? This required not only a huge amount of manpower, but also a deep knowledge of architecture, engineering, hydrology, and landscape design. They knew how to manage water flows, creating complex drainage systems to prevent the destruction of terraces by rain. Another intriguing feature is the unusual location and isolation of the city. The Rafting Valley town is located in a dense, impenetrable jungle at an altitude of more than 1,200 meters above sea level and can only be reached on foot on multi-day trails. This isolation suggests that the city was either very well protected from external threats or had a special, perhaps sacred or strategic significance. Why did the Tyrone civilization choose such a difficult place to live and build for its main center? This may have been related to finding sacred sites, defending against enemies, or accessing unique natural resources. It is surprising that such an advanced culture, capable of such large-scale construction, disappeared relatively quickly after contact with Europeans, leaving only these silent ruins. Question about the purpose of the Valley City rafting, it also remains open. Although it probably served as the center of Tyrone's social, political, and religious life Tirana, its exact function is still not fully understood. Some researchers suggest that it may have been a kind of university or observatory where shamans and astronomers were trained. The presence of many small stone platforms that may have served as bases for round wooden houses, which have not survived, indicates that this was a densely populated urban center. But what was its spiritual or cosmological significance? What rituals were performed on its peaks? Local indigenous peoples, descendants of Tyrone, still consider this place sacred and believe that it is the heart of the world associated with ancient spirits. Perhaps the lost city is not just a testament to Tyrone's achievements, but also a reflection of more ancient, lost knowledge. Some proponents of alternative theories suggest that the Tyrona may have inherited their engineering skills in architectural styles from older, antediluvian civilizations that existed in the region but were wiped out. In this context, the Rafting Valley City may have been built on the site of even more ancient ruins, or the Tyrona were inheritors of the lost technologies that allowed them to work so effectively with stone and landscape. The city of Rafting Valley, with its majestic architecture hidden in the depths of the jungle, continues to be one of the most poorly understood and mysterious megalithic structures in America. It silently holds its secrets, offering glimpses into a possible past where advanced civilizations flourished in the most unexpected places, and challenging our understanding of the limits of human capabilities in ancient times. Stone walls of Costco forgotten fortresses and the magic of a polygonal treasure trove in the Andes. High in the Peruvian Andes, in close proximity to the legendary Cusco and the sacred valley of the Incas, there are little-known but equally striking ruins known as the Stone Walls of Costco, Cusco or Cusco. Although these walls are often referred to in the context of Inca architecture, many of their elements, especially in the foundations and some surviving sections, show a style and construction methods that are strikingly different from classical Inca buildings. These massive, perfectly fitted polygonal blocks that make up parts of city walls, terraces, and temple foundations challenge traditional chronology and point to the possible existence of a much older, pre-Inca, or even antediluvian civilization that possessed amazing stone processing technologies. The main mystery of the Cusco stone walls lies in their incredible polygonal masonry and phenomenal precision of stone fitting, which surpasses even the most perfect examples of Inca architecture. Unlike standard Inca masonry of relatively flat rectangular blocks, Cusco walls, especially in older layers, consist of huge, irregularly shaped blocks of stone, many of which weigh tens of tons and some are estimated to reach hundreds of tons, fitted together with absolute precision. There is not the slightest gap between them, where even a razor blade could be inserted. Each block has a unique shape, but it is perfectly closed by neighboring stones, creating a kind of giant stone puzzle. How could ancient builders, who had no iron or steel tools, let alone modern machine tools, carve, shape, and fit these hard rocks, mostly andesite and diorite, with such surgical precision? Traditional explanations, such as the use of bronze tools, stone hammers, and abrasive sand, seem woefully inadequate to explain this level of skill. This requires either incredible patience and millennia of trial and error, or more likely the use of completely unknown stone processing technologies. Perhaps these were techniques involving softening the stone, using sound waves, vibrations, or other forms of energy that allowed the stone to be cut and shaped like plasticine. Another intriguing feature is its amazing earthquake resistance, these ancient walls. The Andes region is one of the most seismically active zones on the planet, and Cusco has repeatedly suffered from devastating earthquakes. However, the most ancient parts of the Cusco walls, built using this polygonal technique, remain virtually intact, while later Spanish buildings collapsed. The lock system of connecting blocks, as well as their massiveness, provide flexibility and resistance to vibrations, allowing the walls to breathe during earthquakes without collapsing. This indicates an extremely deep engineering knowledge of construction in seismically active zones, which seems to be many millennia ahead of its time. Was this knowledge gained as a result of centuries of experience accumulated in the region, or was it inherited from a much more advanced civilization? The question of the real age and creators of these walls also remains one of the main unsolved mysteries. Although the Incas actively used and completed these structures, many researchers, including those who adhere to alternative theories, claim that the most ancient and perfect sections of the walls of Cusco were built long before the arrival of the Incas. Their style is strikingly different from what we usually associate with Inca architecture and resembles other megalithic structures in the region, such as Sacsayhuaman, Ollantaytambo, or Machu Picchu, whose origins are also controversial. This gives rise to the hypothesis of the existence of a pre-Inca or even antediluvian civilization that flourished in the Andes thousands of years before the appearance of known cultures. Perhaps this civilization possessed technologies and knowledge that were lost as a result of some global cataclysm, and the Incas, when they came to these lands, only admired the heritage of their predecessors and used their monumental buildings, not fully understanding their true purpose and methods of construction. Local legends and oral traditions of Quechua and Aymara, of course, speak of giants or gods who built these walls using magic or thought power, which is a typical mythological explanation for everything incomprehensible. However, behind these myths, there may be a grain of truth about the existence of technologies that we do not yet understand. The stone walls of Cusco, rising silently in the heart of the ancient empire, continue to be one of the most compelling pieces of evidence for the existence of lost technologies and mysteries hidden in the depths of antiquity. They challenge our usual ideas about the capabilities of ancient people and invite us to deeply rethink the entire history of civilization on Earth, reminding us that the most grandiose secrets of the past can be hidden right under our feet, waiting for their full disclosure. Göbekli Tepe, the cradle of civilization in the Neolithic Mystery Revolution. In the southeast of Turkey, in the historical region of Upper Mesopotamia, there is the Göbekli Tepe archaeological complex, Göbekli Tepe, which means pot-bellied hill in Turkish. Discovered in the mid-1990s and actively excavated since then, this object completely changed the ideas about the origin of civilization. It is a series of massive, perfectly aligned megalithic structures consisting of giant T-shaped limestone columns, some of which reach 6 meters in height and weigh up to 20 tons. Their age dating from approximately 10,000 tons, 9,000 years before our era, making them several millennia older than Stonehenge and the Egyptian pyramids. This is the oldest known megalithic structure on Earth, built by hunter-gatherers before the invention of agriculture, ceramics, and writing, which calls into question the entire traditional model of human development. The main mystery of Göbekli Tepe lies in its incredible age and the level of complexity of construction, which was achieved before the Neolithic Revolution. Traditionally, it was believed that monumental construction is possible only after the emergence of a sedentary lifestyle, agriculture, and a complex social organization. However, Göbekli Tepe was built by hunter-gatherers who were supposed to have neither the resources, knowledge, or social structure for such a large-scale project. How could they mine, transport, and install these 20-ton limestone columns, some of which were cut from quarries up to a kilometer away? This required a huge amount of effort, coordinated work by thousands of people, and advanced engineering skills that were not typical of the Stone Age. The lack of any utensils, dwellings, or cooking facilities on the hill itself also indicates that it was not a residential complex, but an exclusively ceremonial or ritual center. Another intriguing feature is the mysterious relief carved on the T-shaped columns. These images include various animals, snakes, scorpions, spiders, lions, wild boars, foxes, birds, especially vultures, as well as abstract symbols. Many of these animals are depicted very realistically, which indicates a deep knowledge of their behavior and anatomy. However, the symbolism of these images has not yet been deciphered. Some researchers suggest that these animals could be totems, symbols of constellations, or elements of a complex mythological or cosmological system. For example, images of vultures carrying decapitated bodies may indicate ancient aerial burial rituals. Some patterns can also be interpreted as astronomical maps or calendar designations, which indicates that ancient people had a deep knowledge of celestial bodies. The question of Prednizhenskhenyi Göbekli Tepe's destination, it remains one of the biggest controversies. Were these temples dedicated to the worship of animals, or places for performing complex rituals, possibly related to the cult of death and rebirth? Or was it a kind of incubator of civilization, a place where disparate groups of hunter-gatherers flocked to exchange knowledge, ideas, and perhaps develop new technologies that eventually led to the emergence of agriculture? Interestingly, after several hundred years of use, the complex was deliberately and systematically covered with earth. Why did the ancient builders decide to bury their monumental structures? Was this done to preserve them as a kind of time capsule? Or was it due to climate change, the onset of some cataclysm, or a change in religious beliefs? Göbekli Tepe completely changes our understanding of the Neolithic Revolution. Instead of assuming that agriculture first emerged, followed by monumental construction and complex social organization, Göbekli Tepe shows that temples, or monumental structures, may have preceded cities and agriculture. Perhaps it was the need for labor to build and maintain such religious centers that stimulated the development of agriculture. This raises fundamental questions. Who were these architects and engineers of the Stone Age? Were they carriers of lost knowledge from an older, antediluvian civilization that had advanced skills, and Göbekli Tepe is just one of its last fragments? Or was it an independent, phenomenal leap in the development of the human mind, which still has no analogs in history? Göbekli Tepe, with its silent but eloquent pillars buried under thousands of years of earth, continues to be one of the greatest unsolved mysteries. It is a living testament to the fact that the history of mankind is much more complex and mysterious than we used to think, and that the most fundamental discoveries about our past are still waiting in the wings. Stone walls in India, the mystery of ancient engineering structures and unknown civilizations. In the vast expanses of India, a country with a rich and multi-layered history, numerous archaeological sites are scattered, which, despite their monumentality, remain relatively little known outside a narrow circle of specialists and enthusiasts. Among them, a special place is occupied by mysterious stone walls and ruins found in various regions such as Rajasthan, Karnataka, and Andhra Pradesh, whose origin and construction methods raise more questions than they give answers. Unlike well-studied temple complexes in cities, these structures are often gigantic, perfectly fitted stone blocks, forming walls, foundations, or even fragments of unknown structures that don't seem to fit into the conventional timeline of Indian architecture and engineering. Many of them show signs of using technologies that, in our opinion, did not exist at that time, which gives rise to hypotheses about the existence of unknown or antediluvian civilizations in the Indian subcontinent. The main mystery of these Indian stone walls lies in their colossal scale, the inexplicable precision of stone processing, and the lack of clear historical attribution. In some places, you can find fragments of walls consisting of huge, multi-ton blocks that are strikingly precisely fitted to each other without using mortar, like polygonal masonry in Peru or Egypt. For example, in Hampi, Karnataka, although most of the ruins belong to the Vijayanagara Empire, 14th or 17th centuries, some sections of the foundation and walls show megalithic masonry, which looks much older and made with amazing skill. These stones often have smooth, polished surfaces and precise angles, suggesting techniques that are superior to traditional hand tools. How could ancient engineers mine, move, and process such massive blocks of hard rock, such as granite or basalt, if they didn't have advanced metal tools, wheels, or sophisticated machinery? The absence of obvious traces of percussion instruments or primitive processing methods only adds to this mystery, hinting at the use of unknown technologies, possibly related to softening the stone, sound levitation, or other forms of energy that allowed the stone to be formed with such precision. Another intriguing feature is the disjointed and unsystematic layout of some of these megalithic fragments. They are often found in remote or hard-to-reach places, far from well-known historical centers, which makes them difficult to study and contextualize. Were they part of much larger complexes that were destroyed by time, nature, or human activity? Or are they the remains of different, unrelated cultures, each with its own unique construction methods? The lack of written sources or local legends that could shed light on their construction only adds to the mystery. Indian historiography, although rich, often focuses on dynastic periods, leaving prehistoric megaliths without proper attention, or attributing them to mythological creatures or gods. The real age of these anomalous megalithic structures is also controversial. If the construction methods differ from those known to us, then the dating may also be inaccurate. Some proponents of alternative theories suggest that these stone walls may be much older than is commonly believed, possibly dating back to periods long before the rise of known Indian empires. This could indicate the existence of antediluvian civilizations in the Indian subcontinent, which possessed advanced engineering knowledge and left these giant structures as evidence of their achievements. Perhaps these civilizations were wiped off the face of the earth by global cataclysms, such as tsunamis or earthquakes, and their legacy remained only in the form of fragments hidden in the jungle or underground. Ancient texts such as the Mahabharata and Ramayana describe flying chariots, vimanas, and high-tech warfare, which some interpret as echoes of the existence of such advanced antediluvian civilizations. These mysterious Indian stone walls, rising silently amid lush vegetation or dilapidated historical monuments, continue to be one of the most poorly understood and intriguing pieces of evidence for possible lost technologies. They challenge our usual ideas about the development of civilization in India and invite us to deeply rethink the entire history of the region. Each such discovery is a potential clue to understanding that the world is much more complex and amazing than it seems, and that the greatest secrets of the past may be lurking right under our feet, waiting to be fully revealed and recognized. The sunken city of Pavlopetri, the oldest underwater metropolis and the mystery of its disappearance. Off the coast of southern Laconia in Greece, not far from the small village of Vatica, at a depth of only 3-4 meters, the ruins of Pavlopetri, the oldest known sunken city in the world, are hidden. Discovered in 1967 by David Hardman and first explored by a team from the University of Cambridge, this city, dating from about 3000–1000 BC, spans the period from the late Neolithic to the Mycenaean era. Its uniqueness lies not only in its age, but also in the striking preservation of the layout of streets, buildings, courtyards, and even tombs, which makes it an invaluable testimony to ancient urban planning and one of the most important underwater archaeological sites. However, its sudden submergence underwater and the scale of the ancient construction remains a mystery. The main mystery of Pavlopetri is its phenomenal antiquity and the level of urban planning that was far ahead of its time. The city is about 9 acres, approximately 36,000 square meters, in size, and it includes residential buildings, streets, squares, public buildings, and even a complex water supply system. The layout of the city is so clear and well thought out that it resembles modern cities with their regular grid of streets. The presence of well-developed architecture, public spaces, and perhaps even port facilities indicates that it was not just a fishing village, but a thriving commercial center that played an important role in the Bronze Age Mediterranean. How could a pre-classical Greek culture have had such a deep knowledge of urban planning and construction? This challenges our understanding of when and how the first complex urban structures emerged. Another intriguing feature is the unknown cause of the city's flooding and its relatively good preservation. Pavlopetri is located in shallow water, and its sinking under the water was not the result of a sudden, catastrophic tsunami or a sudden rise in sea level, as it might have been with the legendary Atlantis. Geological studies show that flooding occurred gradually, possibly as a result of slow tectonic movements, land subsidence, or sea level rise over several centuries. However, the very fact that such a large city was completely swallowed up by the sea raises questions about why the inhabitants did not leave it earlier or did not try to save their buildings. Perhaps these were repeated, less catastrophic, but growing events that forced the population to gradually leave the city. Or perhaps the cataclysm was more sudden than expected, but not so devastating as to erase all traces. The remarkable preservation of the buildings, despite being submerged for thousands of years, is a testament to the strength of the materials and construction methods used. The question of who built Pavlopetri is also a subject of research. Although it dates back to the Mycenaean period, its roots go back to earlier, Neolithic times. It may have been a center that developed and flourished over many weighty millennia, becoming an important link in the trade routes of the Eastern Mediterranean. Its location at the junction of important sea routes could contribute to its growth and development. However, given its antiquity, it is possible that this city could have been built on the basis of even more ancient, now lost knowledge or technologies. Some proponents of alternative theories suggest that Pavlopetri have been one of the younger cities or colonies of an older, antediluvian civilization that flourished in the Mediterranean long before the Minoans or Mycenaeans. This hypothesis, although speculative, attempts to explain its extraordinary antiquity and advanced level of urban planning. Pavlopetri, with its silent but eloquent ruins hidden beneath the turquoise waters of the Mediterranean, continues to be a priceless archaeological treasure and one of the most intriguing mysteries. It offers a unique glimpse into the everyday life and engineering achievements of an ancient urban civilization that disappeared under the waves, leaving behind only silent but surprisingly preserved traces. Further research, despite the complexity of underwater archaeology, may reveal even more of the secrets of this unique city and possibly shed light on the secrets of vanished civilizations that once flourished on Earth. Arches in Salsus, Roman wonders and unknown secrets of construction. In the south of modern Turkey, in the historical region of Cilicia, is the ancient city of Salsus, modern Tarsus, which has a 1,000-year history stretching from the Hittites to the Romans. Among its many archaeological sites, special attention is drawn to the remains of ancient arches and foundations, which, although attributed to the Roman period, demonstrate amazing engineering solutions and construction methods that raise questions about the possible use of unknown technologies or the influence of older, lost knowledge. While much of Roman architecture is well researched, some aspects of construction at Salsus seem anomalous, hinting at hidden secrets. The main mystery of the arches in Salsus, as well as some other foundations, is the amazing strength and durability of their construction, as well as the methods of connecting massive stone blocks. The Romans were known for their feats of engineering, including building aqueducts, roads, and huge structures using concrete and brickwork. However, in Salsus, there are areas where huge stone blocks, some of which reach several tons, are perfectly fitted to each other without using mortar, which resembles the megalithic masonry typical of much older civilizations. If the solution was used, then its quality and composition still raise questions, since it provided such a strength that withstood millennia of earthquakes and the destructive effects of time. How could Roman engineers have achieved such phenomenal precision in processing and laying stone to create such massive and durable structures, if their technology is not thought to have included high-precision cutting tools or lifting mechanisms capable of handling such weights with ease? Another intriguing feature is the use of stones of unusual origin or composition in some places, which indicates their transportation over considerable distances. If the Romans brought stone from far away, this indicates advanced logistics and the ability to move huge masses of materials, which in itself was an achievement. However, the question is why such stones were used for some sites, if other rocks were available nearby. Perhaps this was due to their special physical properties, which the Romans were able to recognize and use, or these stones had a ritual or symbolic meaning that escapes our understanding. There is also speculation that some of these stones may have been reused from older, unknown structures that existed in Salsus before the arrival of the Romans. This could explain the discrepancy between the stone processing technology and the estimated age of the building. Question about a possible hidden purpose or symbolism. Some arches and underground structures are also of interest. Although many arches have served as part of urban infrastructure, such as gates or bridges, some of them are located in unusual places or have strange features that suggest a deeper, perhaps ritual or even astronomical significance. For example, the orientation of some arches could be related to celestial bodies or important astronomical events. Legends of ancient underground passages and hidden treasures in Salsus also add an element of mysticism, indicating that the city holds many more secrets than is known. Perhaps beneath the Roman layers are the remnants of even more ancient civilizations, whose technology and knowledge were inherited or partially copied by later cultures. Some proponents of alternative theories suggest that Roman engineers may have had access to lost knowledge from older cultures, such as the vanished civilizations of the Mediterranean, or even from antediluvian societies. This knowledge could relate to special stone processing techniques, the composition of mortars, or the unique engineering principles that made it possible to create such long-lasting and durable structures. The arches and foundations at Salsus, with their silent but eloquent solidity and inexplicable details, continue to be a reminder that even well-studied civilizations like the Roman Empire can hide technological mysteries that challenge our understanding. They invite deeper research that could reveal the true secrets of ancient builders and shed light on possible lost chapters in the history of engineering and architecture. Underwater ruins of Egypt's sunken cities and secrets of ancient shores. In the shallow waters of the Mediterranean Sea, off the coast of Egypt, are hidden the ruins of two ancient cities, Herakleion, and Canopus, which were absorbed by the waters thousands of years ago. These cities, which played an important role in the maritime trade and religious life of ancient Egypt, were discovered only in the late 20th or early 21st century by the French marine archaeologist Frank Gaudiot. Their discovery completely changed the idea of the geography and history of the ancient Egyptian coast, and also posed a number of mysteries to researchers related to the causes of their flooding and the amazing preservation of their monumental artifacts. The main mystery of the sunken cities of Egypt lies in the scale of their monumental architecture and the priceless archaeological finds that they stored. Herakleion, located in Abu Kirskam, the Gulf of Aboukir, was one of the most important ports of Egypt in the late period, as well as the center of the cult of the god Amun. Canopus, located nearby, was known for its temples and healing springs. Underwater excavations have revealed not only the remains of city blocks, port structures, and temples, but also many giant statues, obelisks, stelae with hieroglyphs, jewelry, and thousands of other artifacts. Some of these statues depicting pharaohs, gods, and goddesses reach 5 to 6 meters in height and weigh tens of tons. Raising them from the bottom of the sea and preserving them is in itself a colossal achievement of modern archaeology. However, the question is how these monumental structures were built and why they ended up underwater. Another intriguing feature is the cause of the flooding of these cities and the exact mechanism of their disappearance. Unlike the sudden cataclysms that could have destroyed Atlantis, the flooding of Heracleion and Canopus, according to geologists, occurred gradually over several centuries, starting around the 6th century BC and continuing until the 8th century AD. The main causes are considered to be soil subsidence, possibly caused by high clay content in the soil and flooding by the Nile, sea level rise, and possibly a series of earthquakes. However, even the gradual subsidence of such a large city with its massive buildings is a complex process. Why didn't the residents take more drastic measures to save their cities if the process of flooding was so long? They may not have realized the full extent of the threat, or they may not have had the resources and technology to deal with such massive geological changes. It is amazing how many monumental sites have been preserved in relatively good condition, despite the impact of seawater and currents for thousands of years. The question of the real age of some of the discovered structures is also of interest. Although the main finds date back to the late period of ancient Egypt and the Ptolemies, it is possible that the remains of even more ancient buildings may be hidden under later layers. Some researchers suggest that these cities could have been built on the basis of more ancient settlements that existed on this coast long before the famous dynasties. This could indicate the existence of unknown pre-dynastic civilizations or even antediluvian cultures on the territory of the Nile Delta, whose tracks were absorbed by the sea. Legends about ancient Egyptian cities wiped off the face of the earth may have a real basis. In addition, the underwater ruins of Heracleion and Canopus offer a new insight into the technological capabilities of the ancient Egyptians in the field of marine construction and navigation. The discovery of many shipwrecks, anchorages, and port facilities provides valuable information about ancient Egyptian maritime trade, shipbuilding, and their connections to other Mediterranean civilizations. These cities were Egypt's gateway to the Mediterranean, and their existence underscores the importance of the sea route to the prosperity of the empire. Egypt's underwater ruins, with their silent but eloquent statues and sunken temples, continue to be an invaluable source of information about the ancient world. They invite further research that could reveal not only the everyday life of these cities, but also shed light on the reasons for their disappearance, as well as possible links to more ancient and mysterious pages of human history. Inca roads, high mountain highways, and the mystery of the oldest transportation network. In the heart of the Andes, stretching for thousands of kilometers through mountains, deserts, and jungles, lies an impressive road network known as Capac Ñan, the Great Inca Road. This colossal system of roads connecting the capital city of Cusco with the most remote corners of the vast empire of Tawantinsuyo was built by the Incas during the 15th century AD. Its inclusion in the UNESCO World Heritage List highlights its incredible engineering significance. However, despite the apparent evidence of its creators, the scale, accuracy, and methods of building this road in the most extreme conditions of the highlands still cause surprise and raise questions about how much the Incas inherited from the older, pre-Inca civilizations, whose traces are still found in the foundation of these grand highways. The main mystery of the Inca Road lies in its phenomenal length, complexity of engineering solutions, and amazing adaptation to a variety of landscapes. Capac Ñan consisted of two main parallel highways, one along the coast and the other in the high Andes, with many branches and connecting roads, the total length of which is estimated at 40,000 kilometers. The road did not just follow the terrain. The Incas built impressive engineering structures, suspension bridges made of vines through deep gorges, steps carved into the rocks, tunnels and complex drainage systems to prevent the roadbed from collapsing during the rainy season. The width of the road varied, but often reached 4 to 6 meters, and in some places up to 20 meters. At the same time, only primitive tools were used for construction: stone hammers, wooden shovels, and of course, a huge amount of labor. How could a civilization without wheels, iron, and steel have built such a colossal, functional, and long-lasting transportation network that traversed a wide variety of harsh landscapes, from arid deserts and rainforests to high mountain passes at altitudes of more than 5,000 meters? This required not only huge resources and coordinated labor, but also deep knowledge of geodesy, engineering, and cartography. The Incas knew how to choose the best routes, minimizing gradients and maximizing the efficiency of movement in difficult terrain. Another intriguing feature is the presence of road sections that appear to be much older than the main Inca network. Archaeological research shows that the Incas often used and integrated into their system older, pre-existing paths built by pre-Inca cultures, such as the Wari or Tiwanaku. In some places, where ancient roads are paved with massive stone blocks, or where traces of more advanced stone processing are visible, the question arises, how deep does this road system go? Perhaps the Incas were not so much inventors as brilliant compilers and refiners of more ancient technologies and knowledge about the landscape. This gives rise to hypotheses that the foundations of Capacñan, they may have been laid by highly advanced antediluvian civilizations that flourished in the Andes thousands of years before the Incas and possessed the technology to work with stone on such a grand scale. The Incas could only inherit and complete an existing but partially destroyed or forgotten network. The question of the purpose and functionality of the Inca road also goes beyond simple transport. Although it undoubtedly served for the movement of troops, trade, and communication between the distant provinces of the empire, its grandeur and thoroughness of construction indicate a deeper, perhaps symbolic or even ritual significance. The road was not just a path, but an artery through which the life force of the empire circulated, allowing information through the chasqui runner, messenger system, and resources to be quickly transmitted. It was a symbol of the power of the Incas, their ability to conquer nature and unite different peoples under a single rule. It is possible that some sections of the road were of astronomical significance, focusing on solstice points or other celestial phenomena. The Inca roads, with their silent but eloquent grandeur, continue to be one of the most impressive engineering mysteries of the ancient world. They challenge our usual ideas about the possibilities of pre-Columbian civilizations and invite us to explore their origins in more depth. This ancient transportation network is a living testament to the fact that humanity may have possessed much more sophisticated knowledge and technology in ancient times than we are used to thinking, and that the most grandiose secrets of the past are hidden right under our feet, waiting for their full disclosure and rethinking of the entire history of civilization. The underwater ruins of Japan and Aguni and the mysteries of sunken megaliths. Off the coast of the Japanese island of Yenaguni, part of Okinawa Prefecture, at a depth of 5 to 25 meters, there is one of the most striking and controversial underwater formations, the so-called Yenaguni Monument. Discovered by local diver Kihachiro Aratake in 1986, the complex features giant, perfectly crafted stone terraces, straight walls, stairs, corners, and even pyramid-like structures carved out of solid rock, prompting fierce debate about its artificial or natural origin. If the Yenaguni Monument is a man-made structure, then its age, dating back to a period when the sea level was significantly lower, makes it one of the oldest monumental objects on Earth, comparable in age to Göbekli Tepe, and challenging the entire official history of human civilization. The main mystery of the Yenaguni Monument is its striking geometric correctness and similarity to man-made megalithic structures. The complex consists of a series of massive sandstone blocks that form terraces, platforms, and step structures arranged in surprisingly regular angles, often 90 degrees, and with straight lines that seem unnatural to natural formations. Some parts of the monument include perfectly smooth roads or corridors, as well as structures that resemble pyramids or temples. Special attention is drawn to the presence of two giant pillars located perpendicular to each other, forming a kind of arch, as well as many circles and triangles carved on the surface. Skeptics claim that this is just the result of natural geological processes, erosion, cracks, and the impact of sea currents on the sandstone. However, proponents of artificial origin point out all too obvious signs of intelligent design: smooth surfaces, sharp corners, symmetrical shapes, and the presence of seemingly carved elements that are difficult to explain by random natural forces. How could nature have created such perfect straight lines and angles on such a huge scale? The question of the age and origin of the Enigmatic monument is a key one in its mystery. If this structure is truly man-made, then it must have been built on land when the sea level was significantly lower. According to geologists, the sea level in this region was 2,040 meters lower than the current one, 10,000 or 12,000 years ago at the end of the last ice age. This means that if the Enigmatic monument is an ancient structure, then it was built by a civilization that existed long before. According to official chronology, people began to build monumental buildings such as Stonehenge or the pyramids of Egypt. This directly indicates the possibility of the existence of a highly developed antediluvian civilization in the Pacific Ocean, which was absorbed by the ocean as a result of a sharp rise in sea level or a geological cataclysm. Perhaps the Enigmatic monument Naguni is only part of a much larger, now submerged continent or archipelago that was home to an ancient, now lost civilization. Another intriguing feature is the possible evidence of writing or symbols on some of the monument's stones. Although these signs are not fully written, their repetitiveness and placement suggest that they may have been part of some system of designations or ritual symbols. This reinforces the case for artificial origin, since nature does not create such ordered signs. In addition, local legends of Okinawa and other Pacific islands abound with stories of sunken lands and ancient civilizations that were swallowed up by the ocean. Perhaps the Enigmatic monument Onaguni is a material confirmation of these ancient traditions. The lack of broad consensus in the scientific community about the artificial origin of the Enigmatic monument only increases its mystery. Despite numerous expeditions, studies, and publications, official archaeology remains cautious in its conclusions, often citing geological explanations. However, proponents of artificial origin point out that too many elements of the monument contradict random natural formation, and that its studies should be conducted with greater openness to non-traditional hypotheses. The Enigmatic monument, with its silent but eloquent stone forms hidden beneath the turquoise waters of the Pacific Ocean, continues to be one of the most compelling and controversial mysteries, offering a glimpse into a possible past where powerful civilizations flourished and disappeared, leaving only barely noticeable but deeply intriguing traces. It invites us to continue our research, which could reveal the true history of the lost worlds and legendary continents that lie at the bottom of our oceans. The sunken cities Kambaiskaguf, the Gulf of Cambay, the underwater Sphinx, and the mysteries of ancient civilization. In the rough waters Kambaiskaguf, the Gulf of Cambay, also known as Hamhat Bay Hamhat. Off the west coast of India, archaeologists have uncovered what could be one of the most sensational discoveries of the 21st century: the ruins of a huge sunken city dating back, according to preliminary estimates, incredible 7,500, 9,500 years before our era. Discovered in 2001 by the National Institute of Ocean Technology of India, NIOT, during a routine survey of the seafloor, these ruins include regular structures that resemble streets, buildings, huge platforms, and even mysterious artifacts such as wooden fragments, grains, and shards of clay. If the dating is confirmed, this city will not only become the oldest known city, but it will also completely change our understanding of the origin of urban civilization, pushing it back thousands of years and offering convincing evidence for the existence of a highly developed antediluvian civilization in India. The main mystery of the sunken city Kambaiskaguf, the Gulf of Cambay, lies in its phenomenal antiquity and level of complexity, which would seem impossible for that period. According to the official chronology, the first urban civilizations, such as Mesopotamia and ancient Egypt, originated around 3,500 and 3000 BC, and the Indus Valley Civilization, Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro, around 2500 BC. However, the dating of artifacts from Kambaiskaguf, the Gulf of Cambay, including wood fragments that have undergone carbon analysis, indicates a period 4,000 to 7,000 years before all these known civilizations. If the city really existed in such a distant era, It means that at that time there was already a flourishing culture capable of monumental construction, city planning, and organization of large-scale works, about which we still knew nothing. How could such a civilization have emerged and developed so early, if only primitive hunter-gatherers were believed to have existed before it? Another intriguing feature is the regular structures found at the bottom of the bay. Sonar scanning revealed the presence of rectangular and square shapes, straight lines, and elevations that look like the ruins of buildings, walls, and platforms. Some researchers even report the presence of giant statues or monoliths resembling the Sphinx or other mythical creatures, which, if confirmed to be of artificial origin, would indicate a developed art and culture. These structures seem too ordered and symmetrical to be the result of random natural processes. The question arises, how could the ancient builders have built such massive and complex structures that are now at the bottom of the sea? This requires not only advanced construction skills, but also the ability to work with large stone blocks, which implies the presence of unknown technologies. The question of the reasons for the flooding of this city is also part of the mystery. The most likely cause, given its antiquity, is a sharp rise in sea level at the end of the last ice age, when the melting of glaciers led to a significant rise in the world's oceans. During that period, about $10,000, $6,000, the sea level could rise by tens of meters, which would lead to flooding of vast coastal areas where ancient cities could exist. Legends about the Great Flood, widely spread in many cultures around the world, can be echoes of these real geological events that wiped out entire civilizations from the face of the earth. The city of Cambay Bay, therefore, could become a victim of one of these global cataclysms. Criticism and skepticism about the discovery Cambayskaguf, the Gulf of Cambay, while natural for such revolutionary claims, are also part of its puzzle. Some scientists call for more thorough and independent research, pointing out that sonar images can be ambiguous, and the dating of individual artifacts does not always indicate the age of the entire structure. However, the very fact of finding such regular forms on the seafloor at such an ancient period requires further study, and not just brushing it off. If these ruins are confirmed as a man-made city, it will require a complete rewrite of the history textbooks. Cambayska, hidden beneath the waters of the Indian Ocean, the sunken city of the Gulf of Cambay, continues to be one of the most promising and controversial archaeological mysteries. He silently asks how many more amazing structures and traces of antediluvian civilizations are hidden under the waters of our oceans, waiting to be discovered and fully revealed. Stone walls in Siberia, unknown megaliths, and the mystery of ancient forests. In the vast expanses of Siberia, in regions that were traditionally considered sparsely populated and underdeveloped in ancient times, there are more and more new archaeological discoveries that challenge the usual ideas about ancient civilizations. Among them, special attention is drawn to reports of giant stone walls and megalithic structure found in remote taiga areas, such as Gornaya Shoria, Kemerovo region, or even in areas of the Putarana Plateau. These structures, if their artificial origin and antiquity are confirmed, can become evidence of the existence of unknown antediluvian civilizations on the territory of Russia, which possessed advanced technologies and knowledge. The main mystery of these Siberian stone walls lies in their colossal size, unusual location, and supposed antiquity. In Gornaya Shoria, for example, local enthusiasts and researchers report finding huge blocks of granite that form a kind of wall or foundation. Some of these blocks are up to 40 meters high and look as if they were cut or processed with amazing precision and then stacked on top of each other. Their size is much larger than any known megalithic buildings in the world. The locations of these walls are often located in remote mountainous areas covered with dense forest, which makes their study extremely difficult. If these blocks are really part of man-made structures, then the question arises, how could the ancient builders extract, transport, and lay such huge masses of stone if they did not have developed technologies? This requires not only a huge labor force, but also the use of unknown stone processing methods. Another intriguing feature is the lack of any official archaeological research and widespread scientific recognition of these finds. Despite the numerous photos and videos taken by amateur researchers, The academic community is very skeptical about them, explaining them as natural geological processes such as weathering, tectonic faults, or unusual shapes of natural rocks. However, proponents of artificial provenance point to all too obvious signs of intelligent design. Perfectly flat surfaces, right angles, complex geometry, and block arrangements that seem too ordered for random natural forces. They argue that these structures cannot be explained solely by geological factors and require full-fledged, systematic archaeological excavations and dating. Why is official science so reluctant to investigate these anomalies if they can change all our ideas about the ancient history of Siberia and the world? The question of the real age and creators of these Siberian megaliths is also central. If they are indeed man-made, then their size and the technology required to create them indicate a civilization that was significantly more advanced than is commonly believed for this region in ancient times. This gives rise to hypotheses about the existence of highly developed antediluvian civilizations on the territory of Siberia, which could have flourished for tens or even hundreds of thousands of years before our era. Perhaps these civilizations were wiped off the face of the earth by global cataclysms, such as dramatic climate change, melting glaciers, or tectonic disasters, and their legacy remained only in the form of these giant, dilapidated ruins. Local legends of some indigenous peoples of Siberia, of course, speak of ancient giants or gods who lived on these lands and possessed extraordinary power, which may be an echo of the memory of these long-vanished cultures. These mysterious stone walls in Siberia, hidden in the depths of taiga forests and inaccessible mountains, continue to be one of the most intriguing and poorly understood mysteries in the world. They challenge our usual ideas about ancient civilizations and the geographical distribution of high technologies. Every such discovery, even if controversial, is a potential clue to understanding that the world is much more complex and surprising than it seems, and that the grandest secrets of the past may be lurking in the most unexpected places, waiting to be fully revealed and recognized. Further research, despite the logistical difficulties and skepticism, could completely change our understanding of the history of Siberia and possibly the entire history of mankind. A journey through the mysteries of the ancient world, from the majestic Moai of Easter Island to the sunken cities Kambeyska Gulf, the Gulf of Cambay, from the mysterious Nazca lines to the unfathomable Göbekli Tepe, reveals a striking picture. Human history, as presented by official science, seems to be coherent and linear. From primitive hunter-gatherers to farmers, then to the first cities, empires, and finally to modern technological society. However, each of these phenomena that we have discussed challenges this ordered chronology. They are silent evidence that our past can be far more complex, surprising, and mysterious than we ever imagined. These megalithic structures, incredibly accurate maps, strange artifacts, and unexplained engineering solutions scattered around the globe raise fundamental questions that don't fit into the usual framework. How could ancient civilizations that did not have, in our opinion, advanced technologies, erect structures from multi-ton blocks with surgical precision? Whether it's the polygonal masonry of Sacsayhuaman or the perfect stone balls of Costa Rica, they hint at the use of stone processing techniques that we still can't replicate without modern machines. There may have been lost knowledge about working with materials, sound, or vibration technologies that could soften stone, or even mechanisms that could move colossal weights with ease. Where did this knowledge come from? Were they the result of a long but unknown evolutionary path of human intelligence, which was then lost? Or is it the legacy of highly developed antediluvian civilizations that flourished on Earth thousands and possibly tens of thousands of years ago, and then were wiped off the face of the planet by global cataclysms, floods, earthquakes, climate change? The sunken cities of Bimini, Kambeyska, the Gulf of Cambay, and Enigmatic, which lie at depths corresponding to sea level during the last ice age, are powerful arguments in favor of this hypothesis. They make us wonder if these ancient civilizations might have possessed knowledge that we consider modern. The astronomical precision of many structures, the inexplicable cartography, and the detailed images that resemble technologies like dendra lamps make us think that ancient people may have had a much deeper understanding of the world than we attribute to them. Were they observers of celestial bodies using giant observatories? Or did their knowledge extend even further? Equally important is the role that myths and legends played in all this. Almost every ancient culture preserves legends about the Golden Age, about gods who descended from heaven and brought knowledge, about great catastrophes and vanished continents. Can these myths be not just fantasies, but distorted, but real memories of past eras when Earth was home to more advanced societies, or even witnessed contacts with extraterrestrial civilizations? Refusing to study these anomalies, ignoring or simplifying them within the framework of generally accepted paradigms, makes it impossible for us to see the full picture. Perhaps the most important pages of human history still remain unturned, buried under millennia of sand, ice, water, and, just as importantly, a thick layer of academic skepticism. These riddles are not just tourist attractions or a cause for speculation. They are a call for deep rethinking, a call for a more open, interdisciplinary approach to history, a willingness to recognize that our understanding of the past is perhaps only a small part of a much grander and more complex puzzle. By studying these silent testimonies, we not only seek to understand who we were, but also perhaps gain clues to who we are and where we are going. What if the answers to these questions lie not only in the excavations, but also in our own broader view of the possibilities of the human mind and the history of our planet?